Fowler into the high slot to Joseph. First pass is blocked. Look out. And Joseph's got to burn back. Comes down. In. Barron shoots and scores. Winnipeg takes a 1-0 lead. Jets bring it in. Shoot it on and score. The Jets have made it a 2-1 game. 12:55 to go in the third. Lowry to the empty net, and he scores. 8.5 seconds to go. Lowry's going to get the empty net goal. And a franchise record 12 consecutive wins. One of only 20 teams to put 12 straight wins together in the history of the NHL will come to an end tonight in Winnipeg. The Jets have held the Blues to just 15 shots and 1 goal. And with the empty net goal, take a 3-1 lead.
The streak was great. While it lasted, now we got to refocus and we got to play better than we did tonight to be able to try and get in the playoffs. That's our focus.
Alongside Alex Ferrario and Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Brandon Kiley. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Just kind of a sluggish game last night for the St. Louis Blues. That's what it sounded like right here in your home of the Blues, 101 ESPN. They won 12 in a row. So all of what we're about to say, the backdrop is, holy bleep, I can't believe we're here. Like, that is the backdrop to everything. They had a 1% chance to make the postseason when this thing started. They have a 99% chance to make it now. This is a good team. They have played really well for 6 weeks. They have earned a mulligan. And last night was that opportunity. Alex, the only surprise to me is that it took this long to get here. Mm-hmm. I have been saying for 2 to 3 weeks now, at some point they're going to have a release game. And last night felt like that. They weren't going to the front of the net the way that they previously had. They had, 15 shots on goal the entirety of that game?
Tied for a season low with November against Utah.
And Winnipeg's a great team. You're on the road going up against a very good team. You have played 100 games in the last 17 days. Don't check my math on that, but I'm pretty sure it basically checks out. Everything set up to where, either this one or Edmonton felt like it was going to be that exhale game. And it was the game against Winnipeg. There were some alarming signs from it, though, Alex. And one of those alarming signs to me is, okay, you're coming off of the game where you lose Dylan Holloway. You haven't had him now for a couple of games. What's that going to look like? And what does that mean for you in the postseason? What did you make of last night's game, whether you want to go the Dylan Holloway direction or something else? What did you make of that loss last night in Winnipeg?
Yeah, I think that Dylan Holloway is a big factor into this, but just overall, this game was going to happen. Sure. And to me, they looked fatigued. They looked like an exhausted team. Like, they got outshot 8-3 in that first period. And mind you, the Winnipeg Jets were coming into that game where in their last 13 games, they have allowed 26 or fewer shots to their opponent. They're one of the stingiest teams in the National Hockey League with the best goaltender in the National Hockey League. So it was one of those games that you knew you were going to have to really fight to get into, and they did. They got the goal to equalize it, but by that third period, I mean, even Montgomery said, like, look, we didn't want to go to the front of the net, and they got to the front of the net. So that was the difference in this one, and after playing 12 games and winning all of them in 21 days, I assumed they were going to have one of those games where the bounces don't go your way, and it's like, oh, okay, checkmate, please, we're done. So that's what last night felt like. But watching it, there were uncharacteristic plays by the Blues in terms of turning the puck over in the offensive zone by just whipping a shot to the front of the net and not dumping it in, exiting out of their own end. And frankly, there was just no ability to cycle. And I think a lot of it is the trickle-down effect from Dylan Holloway. When Colton Parayko went down, I wasn't as concerned, which seems crazy to say, because it's a system that if you put somebody in place, the 5-man unit is going to be able to fill that void. You don't fill the void of a Dylan Holloway. Last night, Snuggerud did not have a shot on goal. Bolduc did not have a shot on goal. And Neighbors did not have a shot on goal. Now, Winnipeg did a really good job of putting bodies in front of the shots by the Blues and basically standing them up at the blue line. But you did not have that speed with the Shen line. They've been invisible for 2 games. And when that line doesn't have their speed, well, now teams can say, well, we don't have to worry about them as much. Let's focus in on Thomas and Buchnevich. And last night, that Lowry line, which, by the way, thanks for BKOing Adam Lowry to be great last night. Lowry line matched up against Buch, Thomas, and Snuggerud. They couldn't really get much going with the exception of Buch's goal. And then that Joseph, Sundqvist, and Bolduc line, I think they were actually probably one of the worst lines in that game. So the trickle-down effect of not having Holloway means teams can isolate one big line, and then they tell you, go ahead and beat us with your other lines. And when you don't have speed with Shen and Kyrou, I think that that characteristic, that identity of the line, it gets shifted. So, yeah, it's a little concerning without Holloway.
That was my fear. This is what I was talking about yesterday, and I know nobody wanted to hear it because they had won 12 straight. But, like, we can still have real conversations about a team even while they are going through a lot of winning. And this is where my concern came in with Dylan Holloway and what you remove from him in the lineup. But Buddy texted me yesterday and mentioned, hey, you remember Jaden Schwartz, how good the Blues were when he was in there and how much things changed whenever he was removed from the lineup? That's Dylan Holloway now because he does everything. If you need anything on any line, he can provide it for you. You need a little more physicality, get out of the forecheck. Guess what? Dylan Holloway's ready to do that. You need somebody that can go on the rush. Fastest guy on the team. Dylan Holloway's ready to go do that for you. You need somebody that's good defensively in his own zone. Guess what? Dylan Holloway can do that too. Distributor, front of the net, whatever it is that you need on a line, Dylan Holloway is ready to provide, right? When you don't have that on that line with Shin and Kyrou, you feel it. You feel the lack, especially of the speed. I'm with you, Alex. I think that was the biggest thing that you were missing last night, and it's going to be the biggest thing that they are missing for the foreseeable future. My guess, I don't think Dylan Holloway is going to be ready for that first round.
No, it does not sound good.
This is just me reading between the lines, but it sure sounds like this is a month-plus type of a situation for Dylan Holloway.
Yeah, I think JR made the point on Twitter, and I agree with it, to where typically if it's like a week-to-week thing, they would just say it's day-to-day. Like if he was 2 weeks, they'd be like, look, it's day-to-day, and we'll see how he is. The fact that they said we didn't get the news that we expected means it's a little bit more concerning, and if it's week-to-week, you're probably talking about like 4+ weeks.
So my expectation today, just the way that I'm thinking about this personally, is that he will not be available at least for the first round, so you got to figure out right now, how do you handle that? What's the plan? So this is my question to you guys. We've now seen it for a little bit. Not a lot, but you don't have a lot of time. There's not a lot of time to reconfigure all of this. We've seen it for a little bit, and frankly, it looks fine, but it doesn't look the way that it did, and I wouldn't expect it to because you can't replace Dylan Holloway with any one player. He's too good for that. How would you go about, Alex, now that the 12-game winning streak is over? How would you reconfigure these lines to make it the best lineup possible without Dylan Holloway in there? Is there something you would do to change it? Would you just keep running out the lineup that we saw last night? What is your plan without Dylan Holloway?
So now? I would keep Snuggerud with Thomas and Buchnevich because despite Snuggerud not getting a shot on goal, I did feel like at times they were starting to build something. I have to get speed back with Shen and Kyrou. I have to get it back. And unfortunately, I love Jake Neighbors. He's just not it. So I would put Bolduc with Shen and Kyrou because then I can have Bolduc on the left wing, which I know people are going to be like, he can't play the left wing. No, he can play the left wing. Everybody calm down.
I don't know.
I would have Bolduc out there with Shen and Kyrou because now I've got speed. I've got the ability to push. And look, Bolduc forechecks like Holloway does. It's different, but they do the same thing. So that's the way I would go with this one. And then I would put Dalibor Dvorsky in, and I would move Sundqvist to the wing, and I would put Jake Neighbors on that line. So my lines would be Snuggerud, Thomas Buchnevich, Bolduc, Shen, Kyrou, Neighbors, Dvorsky, Sundqvist. And the reason I'm putting Dvorsky in is, once again, Matthew Joseph played 4 shifts in the third period last night. You essentially are playing games with 11 forwards when you get to the third period. And you just can't run that way. Are they going to do that with Dvorsky? Probably. You're probably going to see him sit in the third period unless the game's a blowout, but it just kind of gives a little bit more life to the lineup. If Texier was available, I'd say put Texier in and just throw him in on that line that Bolduc's been playing, but he's not. So I would go with Neighbors dropping down, 2 big bodies to play with Dvorsky in the middle.
I agree with flipping Bolduc and Neighbors. I agree with putting Dvorsky in the line, but I would put him on the wing. I would have Sundqvist center that line just because, I mean, it's clear the Blues still don't trust Dvorsky defensively up the middle. Otherwise, I think we would have already seen him up here playing center a lot more than he already has. He's just gotten the 1 game so far. But I do think they need to put Dvorsky in and pull Joseph out. I mean, you mentioned, what was it, 3 shifts in the third period?
3 or 4 shifts in the third period.
He had the fewest amount of minutes on ice last night, even behind the fourth line. He was the third-line winger, and he led to that first goal. Turns the puck over on I guess they were trying to give and go with Cam Fowler. And then he gets out-muscled when they're coming around going up the ice the other way. And it leads to that first goal. So I'm in on pulling Joseph out. I just don't know if Dvorsky's ready and responsible enough yet defensively to be playing the center position. That's why I'm okay with bringing him into the lineup, but I would put him on the wing with Oscar Sundqvist, alleviate some of that defensive pressure, doesn't have to take faceoffs, but if they get in a spot where Sundqvist gets kicked from the circle, boom, we've got 2 centers on the ice to take a draw.
Any thoughts of Bolduc on that top line over Snuggerud?
No, because I think you need depth of scoring. I wouldn't mind trying a Snuggerud with Shen and Kyrou. Like, you could try that one as well.
I was thinking Bolduc goes up with Booch and Thomas. Snuggerud goes down with Shin and Kyrou, and the neighbors with Dvorsky and Sonny. And you can configure that however you want. And I think what they would probably do, Dvorsky plays some at center, plays some out on the wing. They'd make it work depending on the matchups. If you're in your own zone, that's probably a situation where you're going to see Sonny get that face-off. And then if they get on the rush, maybe then suddenly Dvorsky ends up.
And we've been seeing Montgomery do that a lot, to where he sends into the defensive end 2 centers out to take the face-off. One takes it, and if the other one gets boot, then he'll go in. And then as soon as they win that face-off, the second centerman jumps off the line and brings the forward back on.
Here's the problem. Schedule ain't helping you out. You got Edmonton coming up tomorrow night. So
they don't have McDavid. They might not have Draisaitl. That's not a big deal, man.
I'll say this, too. I understand that the Blues haven't clinched their spot in the playoffs yet, and you can't operate under the assumption that you're going to get in. I still would throw Dvorsky in the lineup, and I don't care that it's the Edmonton Oilers. I think they need to get answers on, hey, can Dvorsky play on the third line? But I don't think this is a spot where you can go into the playoffs and then go, hey, how about we try this?
No.
I think you got to find out now in the final games.
You're making the choice now. If you think that Dvorsky just isn't ready, that's fine. Like, they have more information on that than we do on the outside looking in. And if that is their perspective on it, hey, man, they have earned the benefit of the doubt right now based on the way that they've handled all of these other young guys, the way that they got Snuggerud in the lineup immediately. Like, they clearly saw something from Snuggerud, that he's not just in the lineup. He's on your top line right now. Yep. So it's not as if Jim Montgomery is opposed to playing young players. He did it with Bolduc. He's doing it with Snuggerud. He's opposed to playing Dalibor Dvorsky right now. Maybe there's a reason for that. But if they want to do it, if they're even considering at all, hey, could Dvorsky help us in the postseason? Now's the time where you got to find out. Yep. At some point in these next 3 games, probably in at least 2 of them, you need to have Dalibor Dvorsky as a part of your lineup. And it can basically be a competition between Dvorsky, Matthew Joseph, and, depending on what happens, Alexander Texier for that final spot.
Yeah, look, I think you put him in versus Edmonton on Wednesday. And I know people are saying, you can't put him in against the Edmonton Oilers. They're not in a position where if they lose, the sky is falling. Like, they've built themselves enough grace to where Calgary has to win out to get to 97 points. And they have to win out. They play 2 games against Minnesota, and they play Vegas, and the last game of the season they play against the LA Kings. So, like, it is a massive uphill battle for the Calgary Flames, and you're talking about needing to get 4 points to put it into the tiebreaker, which I think you have the upper hand on. And you play Seattle, you play Utah. I would look at the opportunity to try and get Dvorsky in here. It just has not been meshing. And when you lose Dylan Holloway, to me, it's the same thing that happened when you lost Pavel Buchnevich. You lose 2 other lines because you're juggling other guys to try and play positions that they're not comfortable with. And so when you take a Dylan Holloway out, well, now you've moved neighbors off of that top line. And I think Snuggerud's been fine, but that Kyrou line is now lost. And now you're putting Bolduc back with a line that he hasn't played for a couple of games because he was playing with that Thomas line, and now that line's a little bit lost. You juggle up your chemistry, and this is what happens after you lose a 12-game streak. Like, I think this is a good thing for the Blues to lose that game.
It sounds so strange. I'm totally with you, though. And to lose it then, because now it's not close to the postseason where you're going in on kind of a sour note where you lose that winning streak.
I think that would have been the worst case scenario.
You've got a little bit of a buffer here between losing last night. Now you're able to, okay, everybody take a breath. You're not going for history or anything like that. You already got it. Now let's get ourselves ready for the postseason. Whatever that means. If that means one guy needs a night off, dude, take the night off. Maybe that is, by the way, Sundqvist. Maybe it's Dalibor Dvorsky goes out there and his wingers are Neighbors and Joseph. And they say for, I hear you, they say for a night, hey, Joseph and Dvorsky, you're battling it out right now for that final spot in the roster. And possible. One of you is going to be playing in the postseason. The other is not. Sonny, you've been playing seemingly every night now for 2 months. Let's get you a little bit of time off of your feet. Let's get you ready to go for the postseason because they need Oskar Sundqvist at full strength once they do get there. So they've got a lot to learn about their roster over the next 3 games. Edmonton, Seattle, Utah. Final game of the regular season this time next week. With Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. If you guys want to get involved in the show, the place to do so is the Air Comfort Service text line, 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line. You can always check us out on YouTube as well at youtube.com/101ESPN-STL. That's where Great Gator is at right now. Gator says chomp over there. Congratulations to Florida winning the national title.
It's very bummed for Houston. I was hoping that BK would lose some money.
T-Bone and I both had Florida winning the national title this year. Alex, you had Duke, right?
No, I had Florida and Duke, and Florida beating Duke.
There you go. We all got it right on this show.
We're
we
always
know nothing,
100% here.
But we somehow ended up finding a way to get it right in the national title.
Outside of that Final Four, I was perfect. Well, not perfect, because Duke got to the championship. Okay, all but one.
Final Four, I got perfect. What does that mean?
What the hell was
I mean, sorry, inside the Final Four, I was perfect. But I wasn't, so that was false also.
Okay, cool. Yeah, glad we had that conversation.
Shut up, Brandon.
On BK. Coming up next, the Cardinals have a clear strength and an obvious weakness. Is there any kind of a fix for it? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN.
Joey Bart hits one hard to center field, to the wall, and clear the deck for the Bart dart. First of the season for Joey Bart. Gives the Bucks a 1-0 lead in the first. Hits this one hard to left center field. That's going to be a gap shot for Andrew McCutchen. He's into second base with a 2-run double, and he has done it. Thomas Harrington, in his second Major League appearance, save for Carmen Baczynski. He gets the save, Baczynski gets the win.
Just another rough one last night for the St. Louis Cardinals. Offense, once again, 9 hits in that one. The offense has been really good all year long. They produced 4 runs, and so far this year, here's what they've done offensively. 5, 5, 9, 4, 7, 12, 9, 4, 7, 4. Alex, they've scored at least 4 runs in every single game so far this year, and yet they're 4-6 on the season. They have lost 5 of their last 6 games, 6 of their last 7 now. It's not looking good, and the pitching is the main reason why. With Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. That audio courtesy of the Pirates TV network. Alex, last night you went up against 2 relievers, technically speaking.
Oh, that always bodes well for the Cardinals.
Offense was fine, but your pitching was the problem again, man. And I thought Libby was mostly okay. He wasn't great, but he was okay. Once again, ran into 1 inning where it really caused all of the issues. The first start, it was the 3rd inning. Last night, it was in the 2nd inning. But Roycroft goes out there and just gets crushed again. And this is becoming a theme with him. Your bullpen, you just cannot trust them to go out there and hold any kind of a lead. And when you are trying to chase, you cannot ask them to maintain what it is currently at. Is there any fix for this? Because there's an obvious weakness. The Cardinals have a problem with their pitching. And we knew this was probably going to be the case. I didn't foresee it being this bad, but we knew this was going to be the weakness of the team most likely. Is there a fix for it? How do you make this better before things get out of hand?
I mean, the only fix I would imagine for your bullpen is start rotating. Like, start turning that rotating door to find out what else you've got. You know, maybe bring up, and I don't know what the health is of Riley O'Brien, if he's available for you, or you go find other bullpen arms, because Roycroft obviously is not it for you right now. T-Bone brought up Adam Ottavino, who was just DFA'd by the Yankees. You go claim that guy. There's no fix in terms of let's just keep throwing these guys out there and we'll work through. Like, the youth movement came on the pitching side in terms of the rotation and the offense. I don't really care about the youth movement in the bullpen, because bullpen guys are here for 1 year and gone the next year. That's the part that you do need to stabilize. And if I'm the Cardinals, if I need a fix now, yeah, I'm going to start rotating that door and find other options that can come out in the middle of a game to try and hold down the fort.
I think that's the path that they're going to have to come to the conclusion of is, hey, we can't just keep throwing these guys out there. Sure, Roycroft's got nice stuff. Right now, something's off. I mean, he mentioned something about his stance, not working with his sinker. How about we go figure it out in AAA? Mm-hmm. You know, like, you've got some guys that you can try and rotate in and out, like Rodri Munoz, for example. Yep. That dude is a flamethrower that they've converted from a starter to a bullpen arm. And so far in Memphis, 4 innings, no runs allowed. He's got 7 strikeouts, 2 walks. Like, there's a guy that I would just bring up. Why not?
I would try O'Brien as well.
Sure.
And send Fernandez
a couple of games down there.
And send Fernandez and Roycroft down and tell them to go figure their ish out.
Yeah. I have no problem with that. I think that is the best path for the St. Louis Cardinals. I also think they should bring in a veteran like Adam Ottavino, because I'm with you. I'm all out on the whole idea of, oh, well, we need a youth movement in the bullpen. No, man, bullpen arms are so fickle. Like, I'm okay with. Maybe you tried it with the young guys.
Also, you can still do that. You really need 2 to 3 spots where you can utilize the Memphis shuttle. If you've got 2 or 3 spots available for you, you can do that. What you could do in this scenario, send Roycroft, Fernandez, and King down. Option those 3. You get Ottavino. You bring up the 2 names, and Munoz and O'Brien that we just talked about. It might not work. In fact, the odds are in favor of it doesn't work. And you're put into the same position that you are right now. But at a minimum, you've at least, like, changed what it looks like. Yeah. And you give yourself an opportunity to, hey, Roycroft, go get this figured out in AAA. Pressure's lower. You're not having the spotlight on you every time you come into the game because you either A, can't hit the strike zone, or B, get rocked every time you do come into the strike zone. Same thing is true for Ryan Fernandez right now. Like, just go relax. Go down there for, like, 2 weeks. Let's see where you're at, and then we'll reconvene at that point. And maybe Munoz is terrible. Maybe you find something. Maybe Riley O'Brien is terrible. Or maybe he's the dude that you thought he was going to be coming into last year, where you thought he could have been in high leverage spots. He had some injury issues in spring training. Hopefully he's good to go now. I think that's probably the move. they'll probably wait it out for this series against Pittsburgh. My guess is if they're going to make a move like this, it would be Thursday on the off day going into the weekend series against Philadelphia. But, man, they are in a spot right now where this has got to get improved quickly. I thought yesterday it wasn't sexy, but Libby gave you a chance to win.
Agreed.
Given what your offense has been this year, I thought he was mostly fine. And, man, so far this year, Liberator's been your third best starter. I mean, he's been okay.
Yikes.
I don't think it's a yikes. Dude, he went 6 1/3 yesterday. He went 6 in his first game.
But he also gave up 5 earned runs to the team that we pointed out has the second worst batting in baseball.
Struck out 7, only allowed 5, did not allow a single walk.
But the problem
0
is
walks so far this year.
The problem is
been fine.
Once he gets to an inning that does blow up, it blows up to the point of it's like, uh-oh.
And I think that's fixable. Right, I think that is a very fixable issue for
Matthew Liberatore. And even if it's not, okay, so he's Lance Lynn from last year, where you were fine with that.
If you had
he's giving you more innings.
If you had a better bullpen and didn't turn to Roycroft in that scenario, look, he got pulled mostly because it was going to be the 4th time through the order. I actually think it was smart by Ollie to get him out. At that point, he did his job. If your bullpen's good enough, he gives up 4 runs in 6 1/3, which the Cardinals scored 4 runs. So to your point, BK, if your bullpen was good enough, Liberatore gave you a chance to win that baseball game last night.
Also, dude, it was so huge for him to give you 6 1/3 yesterday.
100%.
They were like, you have to.
Imagine if they got through 4. Yeah, he had to. He also only threw 89 pitches. He's been efficient, man.
His blow-up innings are too efficient because he throws it in the zone too much.
I think Libby's been really impressive. I know that the overall results you look at, he's got a 5.80 ERA. If I just simply told you, hey, through 2 starts, Matthew Liberatore has a 5.80 ERA, how do you feel like it's going? You'd be like, yeah, not great. But you watch these games and you see what happens to him. It goes poorly for him for 1 inning, and he gets back on track the next inning and gets you through 6. I'm hard-pressed to be super disappointed by this if that's what you're looking at as your 5 starter. The problem right now is not what Matthew Liberatore has been. The problem is look at the bullpen and look at the rest of your rotation. They're not giving you what they were supposed to. The problem is Miles Michaelis leading into this, right? If Michaelis was better, yesterday feels okay with what you had from Matthew Liberatore. So I've actually been pretty impressed and really highly encouraged with what they've been able to get out of Matthew Liberatore thus far.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think his stuff looks good. To me, he looks kind of Michaelis plus, and I know that doesn't come off as like a great answer, but like he's got swing and miss. I mean, you mentioned the 7 strikeouts, and the reason I say he's Michaelis plus is he's in the zone a little too much, but you can live with that, especially when I say this. Your number 5 starter leads you in innings right now. Think of that. Liberatore leads the starting rotation in innings pitched so far, and it's because he's been efficient. And those blow-up innings are he finally starts leaving a little too much over the zone, but he makes the adjustments. The velo is sustaining. I think he looks good because, to me, that outing last night, again, if your bullpen doesn't allow that one other run, he had a runner on first when he left the ballgame. If your bullpen doesn't allow that to happen, you can get away with your number 5 going 6 innings, giving up 4 runs. In fact, that's the job of the number 5 starter. Just give us a chance. And the bullpen didn't give him a chance. And that's why we're talking about churning through this bullpen. And to me, they need to start showing some urgency to the Cardinals.
He's Tanner. That's Alex. I'm BK. Coming up next, we'll talk to Jeremy Rutherford here on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here, the Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londa Chevrolet and Johnny Londa Auto Plex. The Blues winning streak came to an end last night as they fell to the Winnipeg Jets 3-1. They are off today. They'll be back in action tomorrow night when they visit the Edmonton Oilers. Well, pregame coverage starting at 8 o'clock with Alex Ferrario, then puck drop at 9 o'clock with the voice of the Blues, Chris Kerber. And the Cardinals back in action tonight as well as they fell to the Pirates in game one of their three-game set yesterday. Tonight, 5:40 will be first pitch. Sonny Gray on the mound for St. Louis. Paul Skeens gets the start for the Pirates. The Sports Update is driven by Johnny Londa Chevrolet and Johnny Londa Auto Plex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
With Alex and T-Bone on BK, it's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Happy to go out to the Callier and Thompson hotline to be joined by our friend, Blues Insider for The Athletic. He's Jeremy Rutherford, joining us as he does each and every Tuesday on BK and Ferrario. JR, we always appreciate the time, my friend. How you doing today?
Good. Always enjoy being here. Hey, can I ask you guys like a junk drawer type question?
Please do.
Do you guys put your change like in the little cup holder here? I'm sitting here in my car and it's like it's 2025. There's got to be a better way than to
I don't believe
put these
change.
quarters
In the cup holder? Like in your cup holder, you just throw your change in there.
I would think that a lot of people driving around would understand what I'm talking about, Alex.
Yeah,
So
what
the
kind of monster are you?
So there's like a little spot next to the old cigarette lighter. I drive a 2009 Honda Accord, so like I've still got a cigarette lighter in
BK's car is put together with toothpicks and bubble gum.
That's typically where my change goes, and then it never sees the light of day again because, JR, I legitimately don't remember the last time I paid for anything with change.
Yeah, I have a change jar in my house for poker, and then I have a quarter when I go to Aldi's. That's what I have in my car.
I think that's where I did myself in. Like, I'm still using change, and I think nobody under the age of 35 right now knows what I'm talking about.
JR, you're so the guy that, like, goes to get food at a restaurant, and they're like, it'll be $17.89. Hold on, I got 89 cents. And
I've got a penny in here somewhere.
Oh, hold on. And you call her sweetheart, too.
What, do you got surveillance on the drive-thru out here in Jeffco?
Sorry, it's just at McDonald's. I knew you were going. I was trying to help you.
When was the last time that you paid for something with a check, JR?
Oh, my goodness. Probably last week, the water bill.
Okay.
Really? JR, true or false, you sit at home at the end of every month with your glasses on and you fill out your checkbook.
Reconciling the checkbook?
I think I do that every day. A couple weeks ago, a buddy who works at a bank.
No, you're lying. You're
come on,
messing with me, right,
JR.
JR?
Hey, if I got my buddy who works at the bank listening right now, he brought me a bunch of check registers last week, so I think he could vouch for it.
Are you being serious?
It's just old school. Like,
JR, he's doing the checkbook
last week.
JR's doing the checkbook with his wife, and he says, hold on, honey, I got change in my cup holder. Let me go get that so I can count it before we go to the bank.
I remember when I was younger, my grandpa was reconciling his checkbook. And I was like, Grandpa, you know, they literally do that for you with the debit card. And he, at this point, he was like, I will never get a debit card. I won't do it. They can't make me. I will use my checkbook until the day that I was like, Grandpa, it's literally just a check. But instead of having to write anything out, you just hand them this card, and then you get to see all of your transactions afterwards on the internet, and you can still do the reconciling if you want.
I still,
10 years later, finally decided to get one.
Still, to this day, my mom, I like tell her, like, hey, I'll Venmo you some cash. And she goes, I don't have Venmo. And I go, Mom, get Venmo.
It's the worst.
I'm not giving Venmo my bank account information. I'm like, oh, Jesus.
My dad did the same thing. And I was like, Dad, how many subscriptions do you have online? He's like, oh, dozens of them. And I was like, you think they don't have your information? Anyways, all right, JR, Blues 12-game losing streak.
Congrats, Grandpa.
Broken last night.
Yeah, no, I knew this was going south when you said, how you doing?
They lose 3-1 last night in Winnipeg. What do you think was the story of that game, JR?
I think it was that they hit a wall, and Winnipeg's a good team. Like, when you say the Blues hit a wall, I don't want to take any credit from Winnipeg. They played really well, especially defensively. But I think that this is kind of taking a toll. Like, every game, 8 in a row, 9 in a row, 10 in a row. And, you know, over the course of the 82-game season, regardless of whether you got a long winning streak, it's tough to bring it every single night. And it felt like it caught up to the Blues. You guys mentioned the 15 shots on goal ties a season low. There just wasn't anything sustained in the offensive zone. And you look at the 2 goals that Winnipeg scored, turnovers. Matthew Joseph up at the blue line, turnover, back the other way, goal. And then Pavel Buchnevich twice had the puck potentially able to skate up ice with it and wasn't able to, turned it over, and it's in the back of the net. So a couple mistakes cost them, but I think you kind of felt that this game was coming at some point.
JR, to me, I really noticed not having Dylan Holloway on the ice. Like that Shen line feels like it has gone invisible, and Bolduc, Joseph, and Sundqvist have lost some of that chemistry. It's a really bad situation for this team if they do not have Dylan Holloway, because I don't know how you get that chemistry back with all 4 lines.
It is, because number one, first and foremost, with Dylan Holloway, you have the work ethic, and it just rubs off on everybody. I feel like the Blues have found their identity in part because they brought in a guy like Holloway who can help establish that, and he's number one on that list, I think. And then number two, it's just kind of a trickle-down effect in terms of, if you don't have Holloway there in that line with Shen and Kyrou, are they as good as they can be? The answer is no. And then who do you put there that works with them? And then if you do move somebody there, like a Neighbors, you're pulling him from a different line, and that line's losing a little bit. So, I think they're going to have to go back to the drawing board knowing that Holloway is going to be out for a bit and try to figure out what's going to work. And, I heard you guys earlier. I like the idea of Bolduc playing up there. I realized what Jim Montgomery said this week, that he likes that 70s line and likes what they've brought. But I think Bolduc has shown enough and given you enough offense and brings some speed and pace of play to that line that I wouldn't mind seeing him in that top 6.
JR, I don't know how much information you have, but your tweet on top of Elliot Friedman's talk on Saturday, is it your understanding that Holloway might be a little bit longer than we originally expected?
Yeah, the best way to put it is everybody knows that Doug Armstrong and the Blues have a tight circle of people who have that information. And in hockey, it's tough at any market. It's tough to know exactly the nature and the timetable. But, when you make some calls and have some conversations with people who are, somewhat in the know, you got a situation where you hear things that lead you to believe it's pretty significant. And like I tweeted last night, you try not to read between the lines too much because it can get you in trouble. But I think over the years, when the Blues announce an injury, if a guy's a week, 10 days, maybe even 2 weeks, they're saying day to day, and then it plays out to a couple weeks, and yeah, he was day to day. But when you come out and you say that we didn't get the news we were hoping for, okay, red flag. Number two, they list him as week to week. Okay, to me, that's multiple weeks. We're talking 3-4 weeks. And then you make some phone calls and kind of hear not the specificity of the injury, but just the nature of how long he could be out, and it sounds significant to me. So, again, without any concrete information, so we have to be careful here. What it sounds like to me is multiple weeks, which could be 4, could be 5, could miss the first round of the playoffs, and I think that's what we're dealing with Dylan Holloway right now. So, could he be back in a few and everything worked out as good as hope from the Blues perspective? That could be the case. But as we sit here today, it seems like it's pretty significant.
Jeremy Rutherford is our guest for just another couple of minutes here on 101 ESPN. JR, if that is indeed the case, then do you consider getting Dalibor Dvorsky some opportunities in these final 3 games of the season to find out if he's capable of coming in and giving you a boost to the lineup?
I think you have to. Now, you have to be careful with Dvorsky. Like, you don't want to put him in a situation to fail. He's got a very bright future with this team, and you put him in there, especially in the playoffs, and he gets chewed up. That's going to be tough for him to kind of overcome. But I think in terms of having the most skill and ability and potential to help this team, I think you've got to see what it looks like, just like you saw what it looked like with him for the one game and for multiple games with Jimmy Snuggerud. Going back to that 70s line with Joseph in there and Bolduc and Sundqvist, they've had some great moments. But you look at Matthew Joseph, the turnover last night, you can't have that. You can't have it. And I think that, like Alex said earlier, you can't have a guy that you're playing a few shifts in the third period. Like, you've got to keep those lines rolling. And they've been able to do that, don't get me wrong, throughout this 12-game winning streak. But if you can put a Dvorsky in there, and he can help you with that third line, and maybe that allows you to move a Sundqvist over, whatever. We're just kind of spitballing here. I think there could be some potential upside, and it's at least worth looking at.
JR, big picture on The Athletic. You did part 1 of your mailbag. We're going to get into this in the 12 o'clock hour, but the big one that stuck out to us was you talking about how you don't believe the retool is officially over for this Blues team.
Well, and I say that, I point out in the article that I feel like it's very much sped up because of the additions of Holloway and Broberg, and I don't think anybody would disagree with that. And so, retool, is it 3 years, 4 years, 5 years? Did they speed it up to a couple years? Yeah, I think so. But I think when I say that I don't think it's officially over, I mean, you have a Nick Leddy, you have a Fowler who's up in a year, you have, what are you going to do with him? Broberg, even though you hope to get him re-signed, he and Holloway, they have 1 more year left on their contract. So I'm just looking at the defense for now. What's going to happen with Justin Falk? Do you hang on to him, or do you look this offseason to move him? I know he's played better this year. But you look at the situation, there's still moving parts. They're still not to that point where you think that, okay, this is the team, this is the group, youngsters included, that's going to be part of a team that contends each year. And I think until you get through those decisions and until you get a couple of these contracts solidified, to me, you're not necessarily through it. Yeah, you got a competitive team who can make the playoffs this year, maybe win around, but it doesn't mean you're past all the work that you need to get through to say, okay, this is our group, this is our franchise. I don't think they're there yet.
Jeremy Rutherford is the Blues insider for The Athletic. You can find all of his great work over there. You can follow him on Twitter at JP Rutherford. His latest piece, the mailbag piece that he was talking about, if the Blues are done with this retool, you can find that over there. A bunch of other great stuff over there as well. JR, appreciate the time as always, my friend. Get back over there reconciling that checkbook. Yeah. We'll talk with you again next week.
Contact JR if you need help with your checkbooks.
Yeah, just going through the car wash here with my change.
Yeah. What'd you say? It was $1.75? Hold on, sweetheart. I have those quarters.
JR, appreciate you.
All right, thanks, guys.
See you, man. That's Jeremy Rutherford joining us here on BK and Ferrario. T-Bone, have you ever written a check?
Like 2 or 3.
Okay.
I don't remember what they were for.
I've written plenty of checks because obviously they were hot when I started to have money, but I still worry about screwing up checks when I write them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was something that we had, in our personal finance class, my senior year of high school, it was something that we had to do. We had to figure out what are you confused by?
I just can't imagine someone a class about teaching with a checkbook.
Are you serious?
Well, that was part of it.
That should be the class.
It was student loans. It was
dude.
checkbooks,
We had one of our midterms in high school was you have to balance this checkbook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a personal finance class. There was a semester class that you had to take for every senior that graduated from high school, at least at mine. I think it was a national curriculum, though, at the time. I don't know if it's still the case, but it was a personal finance class where you had to learn how to balance a checkbook.
We didn't talk credit cards or anything. We talked checkbooks.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I mean, I know how to balance a checkbook.
Loans.
But yeah, I think I've written maybe 2 or 3 checks. And I think it was, if I remember correctly, 2 of those were for my high school parking spot just because they charged extra on the debit card if you used it.
Yeah, I still see people at the grocery stores that try and write checks, and people will say oh, we don't accept checks, and then they get into an argument, and I'm like, what are we doing? Why would you go into a grocery store and be like, will you take this check? No, they're not going to take the check.
Some people are old school. Again,
it's time to get new school.
My grandpa did not write or use a debit card. I don't think until 2012, 2013.
I don't think my grandma has a debit card.
Yeah. A lot of people just don't do it.
I'm not sure she has I think she's got a credit card.
The options are 100% cash or check for them. Because they sure as hell ain't using Venmo.
And the funny is, I know
that. I know that. Every time I'm like, Mom, can I send you some money to take the girls to dinner? She goes, no. Just write me a check. And I'm like, oh, God.
Somebody on the text line said personal finance class still required. So, T-Bone, you must have missed that semester.
Yeah. T-Bone, maybe we should go back on that one. Billy Madison style.
All right, coming up next, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. YouTube chat available for you as well. YouTube.com/101ESPN-STL. It's time for questions and answers here on BK and Ferrario.
Alex Ferrario back with you to tell you about my friends out at Ted Drew's, that famous destination off of Chippewa, which has been a St. Louis tradition since 1929. Whether it's cold outside, hot outside, it's always the perfect time to go to Ted Drew's. It is a year-round tradition. 4 generations of families have been running Ted Drew's off of quality service and their love for St. Louis. And you see those traditions spread out in the parking lot off of Chippewa with people just sitting in their minivans. They bring the lawn chairs. theirs. They sit in the parking lot, spend time together, and enjoy that delicious frozen custard. So get on out there, mix and match whatever flavors you want, buy some and bring it home with you, and just enjoy that famous frozen custard whenever you please. There's a gift shop as well. When you're at Ted Drew's, walk across the parking lot, check out that little shack that they've got where you could buy Ted Drew's souvenir, you could buy Ted Drew's apparel. They got hats, t-shirts, they got Ted Drew's socks you can wear, and then they've got Ted Drew's gift cards for you. Perfect gift for somebody that you never know what to buy them. Ted Drew's, real custard, real tradition. Ted Drew's, it's St. Louis.
Three 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. If you guys have any questions, get them in right now on the Air Comfort Service text line or on youtube.com/101ESPN-STL. From the 636, guys, do you think that the Cardinals pitching or St. Louis City SC's offense have a chance to turn it around this summer? I would say of the two, the one that I think is more likely to is the Cardinals pitching, believe it or not.
I was actually going to say City's offense.
I think there's personnel that could change it for the Cardinals pitching. Like you could just see June, Quinn Matthews is here, and Michael McGreevy is here, and suddenly you're feeling better about it. I mean, up until the transfer market exists, like I don't know what's changing this St. Louis City SC offense.
Yeah.
So that's my opinion.
Do they have a coaching problem?
They got a GM problem.
Oh, I heard their coach or manager or whatever they label the coaches in soccer. I'm not Like
is
it a manager?
I think that's right.
I heard his post game after that shutout loss, and just hearing him talk, it was like, man, he doesn't seem very confident, which could just be the team and the roster.
Also his personality.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
You'd know about that, wouldn't you?
No, I'm just saying, like, I don't know that he's like a super energetic interview.
I think the Cardinals pitching can turn around just because I think they can, like you said, kind of churn through some of their arms that they've got, and they can add more people from the outside. I don't know about the City offense. And the thing that I fear with City is if it's another bad year, instead of being a team that, like last year, they were bad, didn't know if that was the one-off or not. They made the head coaching change, but then they went and they spent money in the on the transfer market. I could see where they sell off this year. I could see where Berkey's like, dude, I want to go somewhere where I can win. Hey, Leuven's ready to move on now. I fear that they could be a team that sells off some pieces when we get to that spot.
All right, this one comes from Mahomes long body. Is Robert Thomas playing better right now than Ryan O'Reilly was in 2019?
Yes. If you defensively, maybe you can argue that Ryan O'Reilly was better, but I personally think Robert Thomas is the better all-around player than what O'Reilly was in that 2018-2019 season. Like, O'Reilly was awesome, don't get me wrong. And I mean, he nearly scored 30 goals, but you're seeing Robert Thomas play better than any player in the National Hockey League for almost 2 months. And O'Reilly was good. He wasn't that season. So, yeah, I would say so. Now, the playoffs are a different animal. What does Thomas do in the playoffs? Because O'Reilly was awesome from start to finish in that postseason.
I would say, yeah, he's playing better because he's got more offensive upside than O'Reilly had, and he's still playing as good defensively. But it is, like you said, it's going to come down to the postseason for Robert Thomas because O'Reilly was awesome in that cup run.
Yeah, we're all on the same page here. Regular season-wise, he's got a higher upside than what Ryan O'Reilly did, but Ryan O'Reilly was amazing. Yeah, Let's not forget how great Ryan O'Reilly was in 2019.
He won the Selke, right? Why am I blanking on this? He won the Selke that year. Am I crazy? I swear he won the Selke that year, or at least he was Final Three.
Did.
Okay,
he did.
Okay,
I know. They won multiple awards because
57% on the faceoff dot, was unbelievable defensively.
Yeah.
Posted, I think 70 points that year. Like,
yeah,
Riley was really.
Which remember what I said yesterday about the Selke. It's like once you get votes for it and you're in like the top 5, top 10, you're always there. Look at O'Reilly. He got 6th in voting in 2013, 2014, then 12, 33, 11, 11, 1, 3, 5, 4. Once you win it once or you get into the top 3, top 5, you're going to be there every year.
Won Conn Smythe that year as well. I don't know if you remember that, but that was.
I do remember that one. That's why I blanked for. I'm like, I know he won an award.
That's what I thought you were trying to go for.
Yeah.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line.
Noggin.
Guys, do you think that a line with Sonny, Dvorsky, and Neighbors could be similar to the Thomas, Bozak, Maroon line from that Cup season? Sonny, Dvorsky, Neighbors. Could that be similar to Thomas, Bozak, and Maroon?
Yeah, probably. The one thing I will say about that Neighbors, Dvorsky, Sundqvist line is it's going to be slow. I could also argue at the time in 2018, 2019, that was pretty slow. Like Bozak was a smooth skater. Maroon obviously wasn't, and Robert Thomas wasn't.
You didn't have an above average skater, I would say. On that line.
I could see that being a useful, which is why I'm not against T-Bone's idea of putting Dvorsky on the wing because Thomas did it. The reason they did it with Thomas, though, is because they knew they had a responsible centerman in Tyler Bozak who could cover for him. And Oscar Sundqvist is that. And then Pat Maroon was a difference maker, and Jake Neighbors can be that. So, yeah, I think you could see it.
It's what I would like to see. I want to see them try something with that third line down the stretch. And I think Dvorsky could be that something. I don't know how it's going to look. It might be bad. What you've got right now is not great either. You're not playing Matthew Joseph in most of these third periods. Clearly, that shows you with your actions, not your words. We're not thrilled with the way that this is going for us. Last night, Matthew Joseph, and I like Matthew Joseph personally, especially on the personal side of things. He's a fun interview. But if you're not trusting him in the third period, you probably won't trust Dvorsky in the third period. Find out if there's a little more upside with Dvorsky.
And you're trusting Jimmy Snuggerud more than Matthew Joseph right now in the third period. Like Jimmy Snuggerud, so we said Joseph had 3 shifts. Jimmy Snuggerud played 8 shifts last night in the third period.
Yeah, I mean, he's a top-line player for you right now.
Yeah, so like if I trust a Snuggerud versus a Joseph, then yeah, I'd put Dvorsky in there and just see what it looks like. And don't put him in the top 6. put them on the third line, so there's not a whole lot of responsibility. You try and get those, because typically teams don't focus in on that third line. They focus in on the top two. And right now, they're using the WTF line like a third line for how good they've been in the offensive zone.
And go ahead, sorry. I thought you were about
That's why they should do it.
In 15 minutes, we'll get into bed. And don't forget it, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. You guys give us a scenario. We will tell you if we are betting it or forgetting it here on BK and Ferrario. But coming up next, are we finally seeing flashes of what Lars Nootbaar could become? We'll talk about that next here on BK and Ferrario. Alex, you ready for our listeners to freak out a little bit on us for reading something from The Athletic?
They never freak out on us. Our listeners are the best, BK.
I agree with that, but they're going to get mad about this.
Except for this one that called me an idiot. Take that, Dave.
Over on The Athletic, they put together their power rankings today. They have the Cardinals at 22nd in Major League Baseball. I don't think anybody has like a big gripe on that either way.
That's not the one we're supposed to be upset about?
No, I don't think people are going to be
high, but okay.
super upset about that. It feels about right given where they're at right now. But what I find interesting, and this is really what the power rankings are for, is the write-up that comes after the actual ranking, right? So you have the Cardinals at 22, and they were going through their early difference makers for each team in Major League Baseball. And for the Cardinals, they put Lars Nootbaar. This is from Grant Brisbee, who writes about baseball. He's based in the Bay Area. He said there's lots of candidates here, including Ivan Herrera, who currently leads Major League Baseball in slugging percentage. But let's turn the spotlight to Lars Nootbaar. He's always been a baseball savant darling for his ability to stay in the strike zone and hit the snot out of the baseball, but he hasn't had the flashy stats to show for it. There's a stat called, oh boy, here we go, X-Woe Bacon, that says Nootbaar's offensive output should be closer to Bryce Harper's and Fernando Tatis Jr.'s than Brandon Nimmo or Michael Conforto. Maybe this is the year that it shows up in the real world. Again, that comes from Grant Brisbee over on The Athletic. Alex, I wanted to bring this up because Lars Nootbaar has been a topic of a lot of conversation here in St. Louis over the years. And so far to start this season, he has been on base in every single game of the season. He's reached at least once, safely, every single game so far this season. Overall, he's batting .300, getting on base 40% of the time, and he's slugging a little bit as well. Are we starting to see flashes of what the advanced numbers, the nerdy analytics, the batted ball data, are we starting to see what those things told us Lars Nootbaar could eventually become?
Yeah, we are. I mean, to me, we're seeing Lars Nootbaar be a difference maker for the Cardinals. So I totally agree with what they put in the Athletic article. Like, everybody's going to jump to Ivan Herrera, and I understand it. But to me, Lars Nootbaar has been the guy that I was not expecting this. Typically, he's been a guy, if I'm not mistaken, he gets off to a little bit of slow starts early on in the season. And then once he starts heating up, then he gets injured. And then you're like, man, what is going on here? He's not done either of those. So now the injuries could still happen. I'm going to knock on as much wood as possible that doesn't. But yeah, I mean, Lars Nootbaar in the position that they have him in, that's the biggest difference maker position you can ask for in the leadoff spot, to where he's not only getting on base, but he's slugging the crap out of the baseball. And they need a guy like that. So yeah, he's the guy that all of the talk that BK has been fantasizing over with Lars Nootbaar, he's that guy right now. BK's ready to give him 10 years, $100 million. Go.
Not yet. Go ahead, Steve.
I think this could be the year we potentially see the breakout. And his question isn't so much about, is it finally going to come for him? Because all his numbers, when you look at the advanced kind of peek under the hood, I mean, he hits the ball hard. Like, his baseball savant page glows red, which would seem to tell you at some point this was going to happen for him. It's just a matter of staying healthy, and the jury is still out on if that is going to end up being the case for him. But right now, he looks great. I was just looking at this. Do you know what his hard hit percentage is so far this season?
It's amazing. He's hit the crap out of the ball.
It's at 50%. That's ridiculous. He looks great, and he's now more in his natural spot, right at the leadoff spot, because of his great eye. He can take pitches. He makes pitchers work for counts. He never really fit what they were trying to do, which was, let's kind of go 3, maybe the 5 or 6 spot. I think he's now finally put into that more comfortable spot of, hey, I can take my walks and I can wait for my pitch because I am in this leadoff spot. And there isn't the necessary case of, hey, if I get on base, I've got the big boys coming up behind me. Not where it used to be, okay, if I don't get on base, I've got like Baez hitting behind me. That was just a waste of what he can do at the plate.
He's just a really good hitter. He is. He hits it really hard. He takes his walks. Like, Lars Nootbaar is never going to be, if healthy, never going to be the problem in your lineup. That guy is always going to be an above league average hitter. Now, the value of this, and this is why I didn't want to get into what you were saying about the extension, Alex, the value of this could differ based on your team. Because if you don't have a team that has those run producers in the middle of the order, well, then Lars Nootbaar is getting on base, but really what's the value of that? Because you can't drive him in. You can't find a way to get him around to score. But this guy has real value on a good baseball team, and he's only 27 years old, and if he can stay healthy, which that part we just don't know yet. We're only 10 games into this season. It's entirely possible 2 weeks from now we get into a spot where he tweaks a hammy or whatever, and knock on wood, I hope that doesn't happen, obviously, but then we get back into the same conversations that we've had really for 4 years now. But the reason why this was the season that they were waiting for is because, man, there is so much promise here with this kind of a profile. If he can stay healthy, if the real numbers start to show what the expected numbers have shown us are there for him, man, this can be a hell of a player, like an all-star caliber player. Not a superstar. I hate that they wrote the names Bryce Harper and Fernando Tatis Jr. linked with Lars Nootbaar because I don't think that's fair expectation. I don't.
Mo probably wrote that article.
He's not in that category. But can he be a guy that hits 260, gets on base 36% of the time, and finishes the season with 25 home runs? I think that's in his range of outcomes. And that's a really good player that plays plus defense in left field and ends up being a plus player for you on the base paths as well. And T-Ball's right. You also have now locked in your leadoff hitter for the foreseeable future. So if he can do all of those things, a lot of ifs there, but it's basically health and continuing to hit the ball the way that he has thus far. You figured out what your leadoff hitter is for the next 3 to 5 years, as long as you're willing to pay him what he's worth, and that becomes a different conversation.
Yeah, I mean, like this season, we've talked about it ad nauseum, but it's all about kind of putting checks next to things, like finding certain guys. And one of those is, do you have a consistent leadoff hitter? Last year it was potentially Brendan Donovan, and then it was Lars Nootbaar, and then it was Mason Wynn. Now I think you could sit there sternly and say, yeah, we've got Lars Nootbaar, who is our prototypical leadoff hitter, and then you move on to other areas and you start adding to those checklists. That's all about what the transition, retool, whatever they're going to call it. That's the whole point of it. The Blues just did it, right? You put check marks next to, cool, we got a number one center. Cool, we got a number one defenseman. Now we got depth of scoring. That's what the Cardinals are hoping to accomplish by the end of the season.
Somebody on the text line from the 618 asks what I think is a good question. If you could change anybody in the lineup, who would it be? Because Noot is obviously not that player. Nootbaar right now has established himself. That guy's your leadoff hitter. This is why I wanted to see them do it this way, with him at the top, Mason Wynn at the bottom. By the way, kudos to Mason Wynn. He's been great over the last 5 games now. He looks like himself again at the plate. All the hysteria over his spring training numbers and then 2 games to start out the year. Turns out that was a little bit uncalled
3,
for.
But okay.
Noot has been good up at the top. Wynn has been good. Victor Scott has been good at the bottom. If you could change anybody else in this lineup right now, and a lineup that has been producing well, by the way, what would it be as of today?
Like change where they're hitting or change their profile?
Oh, no, I don't think you can change a player's profile.
No, that's what I was curious about, because I agree, but I thought maybe that's what the question was
that's what
asking.
I was kind of thinking. Like,
let me tell you, man, Donovan would be a slugger if it was up to me.
Well, I think that's the position, though, that you're probably changing, the 3-hole hitter.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure a lot of people would argue Contreras for how bad he's been, but I think that ship's going to right itself at some point.
I think it's Ivan Herrera eventually. I think Herrera eventually becomes that guy.
In Brendan Donovan's spot.
Correct.
Yeah, that would be what I would change with it if I could do it.
I think Herrera will probably bat third because he doesn't really have issues with right-handed pitchers. So, okay, cool. You're going righty on righty? Great. We've got Ivan Herrera. He hits everybody. It doesn't matter who's on the mound. So you'll have Noot, Contreras, Ivan Herrera. Unfortunately, it's going to be like a month or more before we see him again. Nolan Arenado, and then probably Burleson, Walker, and then Donovan. Donovan, Wynn, Scott, something like that. So that way you go left, right, left to finish out the bottom of the order.
Got to have
something
left, right, left.
Could make some sense for them.
Yeah, right now, I don't know if I would pull Donovan out of that 3 spot.
Not as of today because you don't have Herrera.
Yeah, even if you had Herrera, I don't think I would. Have you seen Donovan's numbers? He's been on fire, especially
he's been good with runners in scoring position.
His slash line right now is 375, 409, 575.
He's been good.
I wouldn't pull that guy from the 3 spot. I think right now, if you had Herrera healthy, I would have put him in the 2 spot. And I think I would put Contreras at 5 or 6 right now. And it's not a permanent thing. And this is where I get frustrated when Cardinals are so hesitant to make these moves. That's not a permanent thing. It's, hey, Contreras, you're not hitting right now. We're working on it. Once we get it fixed, guess what? You're back into the top 4.
Sure.
And so that would be my thing right now. I would probably, if Herrera was healthy, he would hit 2 for me, and I would have moved Contreras down.
This is a good lineup right now.
Yeah, it's why I want to see them fix their freaking pitching.
I know.
Hey, calm down over there.
I'm sorry, but the offense is actually hitting for a change, which was the one thing I thought wouldn't happen this year. And though they're not trying to win, they're not trying to go push for a World Series, they could be in this division if this offense plays like this and they just get stable pitching. That's all I'm asking for is, can you stabilize the bullpen? Because I think the rotation's going to stabilize. The bullpen right now is not. And I want to see some urgency to fix it.
Didn't we have this conversation before about a really good offense for the Cardinals, and they just needed to fix their pitching?
Yeah, 2023,
they didn't fix their pitching,
and they didn't do it.
And how'd that season go?
Well, they were awful.
Okay.
But Mo was talking about patience.
That offense
We're transitioning.
I don't know if that offense was as good as this one has been.
Which is more of a reason why that you need to be doing.
That offense, you were really good in that first series against Toronto, but then beyond that, your offense went cold. 4-1-2-0-6. He scored 6 against Milwaukee, and then 1-4-4-0-3-3. Like they had a lot of struggles, and I think that was the year that was the runners and scoring position issues, if I'm not mistaken. I think the offense was producing, but they couldn't get anybody in. And so it ended up being one of those things where I told Alex, hey, this is going to come around. The fact that they're getting guys on is really good.
I remember that.
They're just not getting them over, and then eventually
He probably yelled at me, too, when he got it.
And then it just never came together, and then they were 7-9, and then suddenly they were 10-24, and things went so far awry that it was just over. It was over before it ever really began, and then we had, who was it? Brad Ausmus, who came on and was like, yeah, they're fine. The pitching's going to be good. You've got Miles Michaelis. Everything's going to be fine for you guys. We were like, I don't know if they have the pitching.
We will rally around Miles.
I think he said, too, like, oh, they're going to get Jack Flaherty back, and then Jack came back and, like, couldn't find the strike zone.
Moral of the story, I do think this is a little different than 23. Now, the issue remains they don't have the pitching, but I think you have a clear strength right now. This offense is legitimately good.
Which is more of the reason why you don't need to repeat what you did in 23 and say the pitching will figure itself out. Because I said it yesterday, and I'll say it again. This offense is going to get very fatigued by May or June if they're going to have to score 8 runs every single game to win.
What do you do, though?
I mean,
Be aggressive in the trade market.
I think you've got to be aggressive with the retooling things in the bullpen. That's an easy, like, that's totally, you can do that. That's fine. Beyond that, like with the rotation, I just don't know how many moves
I think the rotation you can give a little bit more time because, like, I mean, mostly it's been one inning for everybody that's gone right. For sure, right? Like Fetty, it was the first or second inning in Boston. For Sonny Gray, like his outing against the Angels was really good. He's fine. He gave up the grand slam on a pretty good pitch that O'Hoppe drilled to the right center.
And if the bullpen was good, they probably go to the bullpen 100%. There instead of leaving Sonny Gray into that spot.
100%. And Liberators had 2 really bad innings. I think the rotation will be fine. The one where you can start to show urgency maybe in a month or so is the Michaelis spot, where maybe you start to have the conversation of what do we do with him. Outside of that, the other 4 guys, to me, they've been okay. The bullpen's the one where they've got to start churning through things. After this Pittsburgh series, I think you're probably right. They probably wait till the off day. My expectation, there should be some roster moves come Thursday when they are off.
He's T-Bone. That's Alex. I'm BK. Coming up in 15 minutes, is the Blues retool over? Or do they still have some stuff that they need to do this offseason? We'll talk about that in 15 minutes. Better to forget it coming up next. Hey, it's BK, and it is time for you to unlock your inner champion. There's one place to do so. It's Victory Men's Health. Check them out today. VictoryMen'sHealth.com is the place where you can do so. Over there, you'll find out about the 4 locations. They're great. They're in O'Fallon, Missouri, O'Fallon, Illinois, Sunset Hills, and the one that I typically go to in town and country. They have all different kinds of things that they can do for you. Unlocking your inner champion means different things for different people. For some, it means getting your testosterone levels checked. There's a healthy range for adult men, and for some, you might be falling into that lower portion of that range. They can get you back up into the higher end. You'll have more energy. You'll get more out of your workouts. You'll feel better overall, but they can check for that, see if that's exactly what you need at Victory Men's Health. You can also get to help with your erectile dysfunction issues, some weight loss goals that you're trying to meet. Maybe you want to learn more about their cardiovascular testing, red light therapy programs, or maybe just their vitamin infusions. All of that is available for you over at Victory Men's Health. Book that first appointment today at VictoryMen'sHealth.com. That's VictoryMen'sHealth.com. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service X line for Bet It or Forget It. You guys give us a scenario. We will tell you if we are betting it or forgetting it here on 101 ESPN. By the way, in the 1 o'clock hour, we're going to play the latest edition of Can You Beat the Blues? Today, you're going up against Philip Broberg and Ryan Suter. So we'll have our contestants coming up at the 1 o'clock hour. Be sure to stay tuned for that. All right, guys, Bet It or Forget It. The Chicago Cubs will win the NL Central by at least 10 games this year.
If this pitching doesn't get fixed by the Cardinals, I'm going to say bet it, because I don't see another team that's going to stay within striking distance of Chicago.
Playing some good ball right now.
Yeah. They got everything, and I was a little skeptical of it because I do think it takes a little, you have to get a little experience before you could just turn into a playoff style baseball. And I mean, look, Kyle Tucker adds some playoff mindset to it. So yeah, I'm going to say forget it.
You're going to say bet it.
I'm going to say bet it.
Yeah.
I'm going to say bet it as well.
Is this swipe left?
I'm going to say I don't believe in Milwaukee, and they're dealing with so many injuries right now that they had to make some desperate moves. Take notes, Cardinals. I don't think the Cardinals are going to change out the bullpen arms quick enough based on the way that they're talking. So, and I don't believe in the Reds or the Pirates. So, yeah, I'll bet this. I think Cubs win by 10+.
I'm going to bet it as well. The guy that's really been surprising for them is Seiya Suzuki. He's hitting the crap out of the baseball right now. He's got 4 home runs already on the season. Kyle Tucker's just been Kyle Tucker.
I always feel like Suzuki has like a 2-3 week stretch where you're like, whoa, and then he gets hurt, and then he never gets back to form.
Sure. So it's possible that ends up happening again, but they've had some positive returns early on this year. They basically had 2 bad games against the Dodgers, which everybody has had bad games against the Dodgers this year. Since then, they've been really, really good. So I'll bet this. Alex?
Guys, bet it or forget it. The area that Doug Armstrong will be aggressive with this offseason is a right shot defenseman.
If they get aggressive, I would bet it. I don't know where else you would be able to be aggressive, honestly. Given what you have with your young players, like you're not adding a winger this offseason. I don't think you're doing anything up the middle if you have confidence that Dvorsky can be that third-line center starting next season. I don't know where else you would add. Because you're not doing anything with your goaltending. I don't think the left side is something that needs to be added to. Yeah, right-handed defenseman. Bet it.
Can I add something real quick to this? Because you just mentioned, and it kind of like light bulb went off. Bet it or forget it, the Blues should trade Joel Hofer this offseason.
Forget it.
Here's my thought process with it, and I'll explain it before you guys answer. Although T-Bone,
As I say,
T-Bone,
damn, I jumped the gun.
He's fine. He's been their best goaltender this season. He's an RFA, and the way that the cap is going up and how goaltenders are, you're talking about $4+ million for him, and you're probably going to go to him and look at a bridge deal. Binnington's got 2 more years, and then he's a UFA, and who knows what happens. He's 33 at the time of that. In 3 years, maybe you've got another guy in the system that's ready to go, and Binnington's the guy. You could get a massive return for a guy like Joel Hofer for a team that's desperate. I think so. Well, I mean, we always argue with this. The only difference in this is he's a 24-year-old goaltender that's just at the start of his deals. And he's got experience for the last 3 years. If you want a right-shot defenseman, I wonder if that's the bigger chip to do. Because this Colton Ellis, if I'm not mistaken, was around the age that they started to get some reps for Joel Hofer.
It's an interesting thought. Like, legitimately, I've got no retort on it. If you're going to use somebody from your NHL roster to trade, it's probably Hofer. I think Bolduc has played himself out of that conversation at this point.
Unless you feel like Binnington is the guy you trade and you give Hofer the reins after this year.
If you're in a winning window, you don't trade Binnington. It's a full stop.
That was my thought process.
And you're not going to get as much for him because of the contract and because of the age. Like, I just... in general, think goalies don't get you as much as you expect them to. And I don't know what you would get for Hofer. And if you're not going to get a lot for him, I would say just keep him because you've got a good player. He helps you. He can play 30 games next year, and you're feeling good about it.
So 2 guys that come to mind. And so Spencer Knight, who was just traded at the deadline, he was acquired for Seth Jones. Now, Seth Jones has not been very good, but Seth Jones is considered a top 4 defenseman and just on a bad team. And I mean, the Blues had success with Cam Fowler.
A terrible contract.
Yeah. And they got 50% eaten of that with Spencer Knight. Devin Levi was the guy that was traded to Buffalo for Sam Reinhart. And Devin Levi was a guy that did not have any time in the National Hockey League, but he was 23 years old.
Ville Husso, similar spot to what Joel Hofer is right now. Ville Husso got you a 3rd-round pick.
That was for the rights of his contract, right?
Yeah, because he was a pending UFA.
Pretty similar to this.
Yeah.
If we're being honest, because he's an RFA, so if you're going to get a $4 million contract, it's not all that dissimilar from what Husso ended up with.
Yeah,
He's a little older, but
I wouldn't do it just because I think when you're in your winning window, one, I agree with you, don't trade Binnington, but two, I think it's clear you need somebody to be with Binnington. You need a solid 1A, 1B, and the Blues clearly view Husso as a 1B, or excuse me, Hofer as a 1B. Man, I miss
that's why they need to trade him. So you stop calling him Husso.
But I think you hold on to him, and though I don't necessarily have 100% trust in a Joel Hofer, he's good enough to get the job done, and he's only going to get better with more experience he gets. So I wouldn't move him this offseason.
Yeah, I would bet this and bet the first one that we had. I had two of them there. Sorry.
You basically what you're saying is you're betting that they'll trade
for a right-handed defenseman.
Right-handed shot defenseman. Makes sense.
Guy, Whoa.
Did they just trade a right-handed defenseman?
Sorry, this has no real value locally. The Denver Nuggets just fired their head coach.
Really?
Wow.
Aren't they in the playoff spot?
Aren't they like top 3 in the West?
Oh, my God. The NBA is crazy this year, dude.
Once again, the team doesn't listen to the coach, and the coach gets fired.
The Grizzlies fired their coach while they've been in the playoffs all year long.
So they could listen to
and
the Rangers
Nuggets
get in trouble.
are the 4 seed right now, a game and a half back of the LA Lakers. And they just fired Mike Malone, who won them the NBA title like two years ago?
Didn't they win it last year?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
No, last year was the Celtics.
Duh.
Wow, that's crazy. All right, sorry, T-Bone, go ahead. I just saw the news. I was like, I can't believe that.
I thought we were getting a new bullpen.
I thought we were getting a right-shot defenseman.
There's like a week left in the season, dude. They're about to start the playoffs, and they just fired him.
You got to get that new coach bump at the right time. This feels like the right time. Guys, bet it or forget it. The Cardinals will finish 10 games below 500 at the end of April.
At the end of April, that feels aggressive. I'll say forget it.
You've watched their pitching, right? I don't know how aggressive it can be.
And you see what their schedule is the rest of April, right?
I do think also this Ivan Herrera thing is real. Not having him in this lineup. I think the lineup's pretty good. I think Ivan Herrera was a difference maker in the lineup. And guys are going to go through slumps. It just happens. So I'll say forget it, but I probably came off a little too hot.
I'll say bet it.
Thank you.
I think their pitching is going to put them in that position.
I think I might bet it as well. I mean, last night showed me everything I need to know about what the
How do you feel positive about your...
They have 21 games between now and the end of the month.
They're 1 game below 500 now.
They're 2 games.
They're 2 games. They're 4 and 6
right now.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Mr. Optimism
so to be
over there.
10 games below 500, you're talking about them going like 6 and 15 the rest of the way.
Oh, they can do that.
And I was going to say, and then look at what their schedule is.
Yeah. I mean, right now...
2 elite pitchers for Pittsburgh, then Philly, then Houston, then the Mets, then the Braves, then the Brewers.
6 and 15, it just feels like a lot, man.
Right now, they're losing 2, maybe all 3 at Pittsburgh. They're going to lose 2 or 3 to Philly. Probably 2 or 3 to Houston, 3 or 4 to the Mets.
Yeah, if you think that's happening, then they will.
The Braves will be the one that maybe you can compete with, and then the Brewers and the Reds.
Their pitching right now doesn't give them a chance. And that's my biggest thing. It's not about what the offense is doing, because I'm all in on this offense.
Same.
It looks great. This pitching, they can lose to anybody with this pitching. And that's their biggest problem. So, yeah, I would bet this. I think they finish 10 games below 500, and they fail on their whole goal of, like, we want to get people back in April.
All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service X line for Bet It or Forget It. Alex, this one's for you. Bet It or Forget It. The Blues will take a run at Keandre Miller if he becomes a free agent in the offseason.
Forget it. I love the idea of Keandre Miller, and he was the one that I was hoping for before Broberg, but he's a left-shot defenseman, and they've got a ton of those guys. So forget it. I think they go find a right-shot defenseman.
All right, Bet It or Forget It, guys. The Blues will add muscle to help defend some of the young players in the offseason. They'll go get an enforcer.
No. They don't. Enforcers, I mean, Ryan Reeves is playing in the American Hockey League right now. Matt Rempe for the New York Rangers is in and out of the lineup. Enforcers don't make a difference anymore. You got to have guys who have the ability to push back and not fight, but stand their ground. Like Tyler Tucker is the perfect example of muscle. They need size on their backhand. What they saw last night was we get shoved around a little bit when we try to go to the front of the net, or when the opposite. I mean, Adam Lowry is a big dude. He's a big dude, BK.
Yeah, I know.
And he can make some space for himself. You've got to be able to have guys that don't allow that. And although Parayko's big, Fowler's big, Broberg's big, I still think you lack a little size on your blue line, and that's probably going to be why I think they'll find a right-shot defenseman.
Yeah, they're not going to go get an enforcer. All right, Bet It or Forget It. Paul Skeens will strike out at least 9 Cardinals tonight. The over-under set at 6.5.
I would take the over. 9.
I'll say forget it.
9's a
this
lot.
This lineup's good, man.
Yeah, 9's a lot. I'll forget it.
This lineup's good.
Like
they don't
7.
strike out a lot. I know Skeens is different, but
I think like 7. And they're also going to strike out 17 times now that BK just said that.
Yeah, I think I would bet it, especially because I don't know if Arenado's going to be playing yet because he's been under the weather. I'll bet this, and even without Herrera, I think he'll be get like 9 or 10 tonight.
I'll say forget it. I don't think he gets 9+. 6, 7, 8.
What's the record for most strikeouts in the game? Because that's happening now.
I think the Cardinals are like in that with. I think Kluber did it to him, if I'm not mistaken.
That
It's
checks
like
out.
18 or something.
Alongside Alex
19.
and T-Bone on BK, it's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. You're not going to see one of those performances tonight. Coming up next,
Dude, double down on the
is the
BK.
Blues retool officially over? We'll talk about it here on BK and Ferrario.
Alex Ferrario with you to talk about my friends out at Classic Air Care. This time of the year, that HVAC system, it's going to start getting some work. Last night, perfect example. In the daytime, it was a little bit warmer. My wife wanted to cool down the house, but at nighttime when the girls went to bed, it was cold outside, so the heat had to go on. And this is why you need to make sure you've got the company that's helping you maintain that unit. Whether it's an older unit or maybe it's a brand new one, you want to keep it as long as you can. That's where Classic Air Care comes into play. And when the maintenance agreement is available to you, I urge you to take advantage of it. I love being a part of that because when there's issues that have popped up with our older unit, the house we bought in 2016, it was a 23, 25-year-old unit, and issues pop up. The best part about it is when it happens at the worst time possible, you're on the priority list because you're a part of that maintenance agreement. You call Classic Air Care. Their incredible office will get you scheduled first come, first serve in terms of priority because you're a part of that maintenance agreement. So call them today, schedule that maintenance agreement, schedule that opportunity to get your unit checked out. Just tell them Alex Ferrario sent you. Classic Air Care and classicaircare.com.
Tanner Hendrickson here. They Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Last night, the Blues winning streak was snapped as the Jets took them down 3-1. And the Blues will be back in action tomorrow night as they visit the Edmonton Oilers. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 8 o'clock with Alex Ferrario. Then puck drop at 9 o'clock with the voice of the Blues, Chris Kerber. Cardinals back in action tonight. Game 2 of their 3-game set at the Pittsburgh Pirates. 5:40 will be first pitch. Sonny Gray's on the mound for St. Louis. Paul Skeens gets the start for the Pirates. This Sports Update is driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at Londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK. So is the retool over for the St. Louis Blues? Jeremy Rutherford says, quote, my answer is no. Before the Blues got to where they want to be, Armstrong will still have to figure out what he wants to do with the defensive contracts, blend in some of the prospects, and perhaps add some players through trade or free agency. I would say the retool has been sped up tremendously, and what has transpired should make it happen more naturally since they aren't forced to gut the roster by looking for answers, end quote. That is from JR's piece earlier today over on The Athletic. It's part of his mailbag over there if you want to read it in its entirety. Alex, would you say the retool is over for the Blues or no?
I would say it's over for the Blues. And I'm not saying JR's wrong. I understand
sure
where...
sounds like you are.
Well, no.
He said no and you said yes. Sounds like there's not really like a gray area between the two. It's just a yes or no.
Can I finish? Can I finish?
You've said that before once. And
and you got really angry on it. It was a really fun face that you made on it too, though. You looked very alarmed that it happened. So did T-Bone. I understand where JR is coming from. But to me, I don't think there's contracts that are hurting this team. Like, Justin Falk is probably the only one that you would look at and you'd be like, yeah, it'd be nice to get out of this. $6.5 million with the cap going up is not the end of the world. And Torrey Krug, I know people will cite that. The way that Doug Armstrong made it sound on the Spit and Chicklets podcast, it's not that he's not playing again this year. It's not that he's playing again. So I don't think that's a concern. And if we're talking about a $6.5 million contract for a guy that has his ups and downs, he could be a third pair defenseman for you. Letty's off the books after next year, and all of the guys are locked up for at least one more year. And the Broberg, the Holloways, the Boldukes, they're going to get their contract extensions, but the cap continues to go up. So I think the most important part of the retool was finding the pieces that could be a part of this group and get them into the winning concept. And now you've got the coach, which is something I didn't think you had with Drew Bannister, and I didn't know who that was going to be. You've got the core in terms of Thomas, Kyrou, Buchnevich, Parayko, Broberg, Holloway, and you still have a pipeline that could either be used to help your team in the next couple of years or help you in the trade market. So I look at this as saying I don't expect them to be a 50-50 team next year. After what they've done, I expect them to be a playoff team next year. And to me, that ends the retool.
I'm in agreement with you. I think the retool's over. I think that JR's wrong. Just flat out wrong on this. I'm kidding.
Oh, wow.
I just disagree with it. I do think that the retool is over because
I'll send it to him.
I view it as being a different thing. If you're in the midst of a retool, you're like trying to overhaul the roster still. There are big moves that you still need to make. That's why last offseason, it was very clearly a retool. Wasn't a rebuild in my mind, because a rebuild is you're starting from scratch. You don't have Robert Thomas. You don't have Jordan Kyrou. You don't even have a Booch or a Shin. You don't have Parayko. You don't have Benner, because at that point, trade all of them. Mm-hmm. Maybe you keep Thomas and Kyrou, maybe, because they're so young. But otherwise, all the rest of them got to get all the way up out of here as quickly as humanly possible. That's not where the Blues were at. It's not where they are at now. Now what you're doing is tinkering. And that's what a contender does, dude. Like, you look this offseason at whether it's Florida or Edmonton or Toronto, like, these teams are also going to have to tinker with their roster, and they're considered to be some of the top contenders in the NHL. You're making similar moves here in St. Louis. Every team has to make some kind of a move. So if the Blues are still in a retool, in my opinion, that means every team is at least in some version of a retool. The Blues this offseason, like, the goal should be, hey, can we get a second pair right-handed defenseman? If the answer is no, we can go back with Justin Falk. It can work. We just won 12 games in a row with him as...
Without playing Colton Parayko.
You can make it work, and it'd be fine. But in an ideal world, you'd like to have an upgrade there, and you'd like to go ahead and move on from that contract. Again, in an ideal world. if you could go out and find a way to maybe upgrade, I don't know, that third line center spot so you don't have to have Dvorsky in it immediately, cool, you could go do that. But those are little moves. Yeah. Those are small potatoes compared to what this team has had to do over the last few years, where we didn't know if they had a top-line winger on the roster. They didn't have a top pair defenseman or a second pair defenseman on the left-hand side. So this is very different than where they've been in my mind.
And I think where JR is coming from is, like, you still don't know what Dvorsky or Snuggerud are at the NHL level. That's the retool. That's where these guys are still developing into what they're supposed to be. But why I would say the retool's over is now I've gotten a taste of it. And now you're just in the development stage. Look at what 1 year did for Zach Bolduc in terms of being a fringe third-line winger to now being a guy that we're saying should be in your top six. I think the tinkering that takes place is, they could open up $5 million in cap space if they can move on from maybe a Joseph and a Texier that do not fit their timeline. Maybe they can move on from $4 million in Nick Leddy if he's not the third pair defenseman, and bring back a Ryan Suter if he wants to play with Tucker on that third pair. The tinkering can always happen, but the part about it and why the retool has sped up and why they're out of it is, man, we haven't even seen an Otto Stenberg or a Kaskamaki that the Blues teams are very high on. And now with all of these players, I don't know if you're going to see them. That's the part that's where teams get so dangerous, in my opinion, to where if they get a retool that goes fast, now all of the weapons that they spent years on accumulating assets, that becomes arsenal to go out there and make the team better than what it is now. Absolutely. So if they want to go into the offseason this year and say, we have one weakness and it's the second pair right side defense, we need help there, we need to get bigger, we need to get better at puck movement. Cool. We've got two guys that we drafted in the first round in Otto Stenberg and Theo Lindstein. We've got two guys that were really good in the World Juniors that people are excited about. Oh, and by the way, we've got three goaltenders, one at the NHL, two in the AHL, that people are excited about. All those guys aren't playing for the Blues within the next 3 to 4 years. That's how you open up that window and make it go faster.
All right. Secondary thing that I wanted to get to here. Blues last night lose 3-1 against Winnipeg. The 12-game winning streak is over. They were unbelievable during it. Alex, you said you got a text from the beat writer that we had on from the Winnipeg Jets yesterday.
Yeah.
What was his impression of the Blues? I'm curious. I always like hearing the other perspective. What did they think of watching the Blues after not having seen them for 12 consecutive games winning the way that we did?
Yeah, Murat Ates, who we had on yesterday, who, by the way, I did a hit in Winnipeg yesterday afternoon, too, and he even said, fans are very concerned about taking on the Blues. This is what Murat said. He said, man, oh man, I could tell why St. Louis has been so hard to score on late. Love the defensive shape and commitment, even in a game the Jets had most control in. Turns out Thomas is unreal with or without Kyrou. You trying to warn me. Pavel Buchnevich goal was quality all around. And so I told him, I said, this team, they hit the moment last night where it was like, bleep this, we're exhausted, but Monty's style is in play. And I said, people in St. Louis are thinking, I don't know if I want to deal with the Jets. He said, what a series that would be to watch. I think Jets fans believe in their team again, but they're also ready for the pre-reacting to a playoff heartbreak. They're so ready to be hurt. He's right. Even in a game that Winnipeg dominated, the Blues still have structure. They still did not allow Winnipeg.
It was a 2-1 game, basically.
Yeah, they didn't allow until the third period Winnipeg to get second and third opportunities in the offensive zone. They would kill the play and move it out. It was the turnovers that hurt him. So I do look at the Western Conference, hearing from Murat, and I can see at least weaknesses for all of these teams. But after watching it last night, I'll say it what I've said all along. I don't want to deal with Winnipeg in the first round. I don't want to deal with the Central Division in the first 2 rounds. Give me the Pacific Division. I think the Blues match up better against them, and I'll take the Central Division in the Western Conference Final.
T-Bone, out of curiosity, did last night influence your belief on who you would want to see in the postseason between Vegas or Winnipeg, if that was the choice?
Yeah, I would rather play Vegas. I didn't remember Winnipeg being that good because I think I saw them in person, and I think it was a game Thomas broke his foot or his ankle, if I remember correctly. And at the time, I didn't think, I was like, they're good. I don't know if they're a team that I would necessarily fear. Last night, to me, was, okay, they really match up pretty well with the St. Louis Blues. And maybe it was more of the Blues were tired, and, if they can clinch and they can rest a couple bites, maybe things look a little bit different. No, thanks. I don't want to play that Winnipeg Jets team. They are deep, and they were able to really keep the Blues on the outside, and that is just a recipe for success for Winnipeg, failure for the St. Louis Blues.
And Winnipeg's depth and the Blues' depth, and it's why I think Dallas is such a dangerous team. I don't feel that same way about Vegas. I think Vegas has 2 lines that could hurt you offensively, and they have a very good defensive group. They don't play as tough and nasty as the Winnipeg Jets play. So Vegas, there are some numbers that are alarming when you look at it, especially when you're talking about Eichel, Stone, and Barbashev. But I think the Blues match up better against the Pacific Division.
Text line says this well from the 314. Winnipeg looks like a better version of the Blues. I would much rather play Vegas. I get that completely. I do think that Winnipeg is a similar style to what you are. I mean, we've talked about this for weeks now.
Yeah.
The Blues are basically trying to become the Winnipeg Jets, but with more playoff success. Because Winnipeg has been super successful in the regular season for years. They've got a great goalie. They're super deep on their forward groups, but they don't necessarily have like a true superstar. Kyle Connor's probably the closest thing to that. Scheifele's a really, really good player. They're about this pack mentality that the Blues are trying to build. So they're trying to do something similar. Winnipeg is further along in that build right now than where you are at, obviously. And now without Dylan Holloway, I think the Holloway injury, to me, is what changes things for me. The Holloway injury, if he were healthy, I think you could potentially go toe-to-toe with Winnipeg.
I agree.
I really do.
Because it's depth on depth. It would be a very difficult series.
Sure. And I could see why that would maybe be the quote-unquote easier path. Without Holloway in there, I think you want to play somebody that plays a little bit of a different style. I would probably rather see, it did change things for me, both the Holloway injury and then seeing it last night without Holloway. I'd probably rather see Vegas in that first round. The other thing is that just allows you an it's going to be hard no matter what, but easier second round path as well, as potentially not having to face against Dallas.
And I think that's why the Blues have had the most successful record against the Pacific Division than any other team in the Western Conference this year. They're 15-4-6, I believe it is. The Pacific Division does like to play a little run and gun hockey. They don't like to play as physical as Winnipeg does. So Vegas has a very large back end in terms of their defensive group, but they're not going to make it as painful to get to the front of the net as the Blues do. So that's why if Holloway can come back in the middle of the playoffs, that gives you even more of an upper hand once you get him back in.
Last thing here, Alex, this comes from Little Jackie's Rolling Papers. Guys, I'm curious your opinion on who you really think the best team in the NHL is and who has the best chance to win the Stanley Cup. Take out your emotions of it, wanting the Blues to win. Who do you think it will come down to?
Best team overall in the NHL?
I think Dallas right now would be, for me, the team that I would pick to come out of the West.
It's to me, it's a tie for first, Dallas or Winnipeg. I don't know if I can trust Connor Hellebuck, but last night that team was without 3 of their top 9 forwards. They were playing without Pionk, Gabe Vilardi, and Nikolai Ehlers. They're a team that has allowed the fewest shots on goal per game. Connor Hellebuck, if you get to the front of the net, good luck beating him. Does he choke in the playoffs or not? So if you're telling me Connor Hellebuck's going to be locked in, I would take the Winnipeg Jets. But if he's going to be the choke artist that he's been the last couple of years, I'd take the Dallas Stars.
I would probably take Dallas against Tampa. That would be my pick for the Stanley Cup final today.
Yeah, I'll go Dallas versus Florida because even with the guys coming back, I good luck beating Florida, and there's a reason they're setting all their guys down. They don't care if they get to the wild card because they can beat Toronto in the first round. So Tampa's going to be tough, but I think I would go Florida over Tampa.
That's who I've got. Florida, they've just been there, done that. Mostly the same group of guys. They add in Marchand. My expectation, they're going to be healthier when they get to the playoffs. So I like Florida coming out of the East. And then I would still lean towards Dallas. I love what they did at the trade deadline. I would take them over Winnipeg.
It's wild, too, that none of us said Washington.
They're really good.
I don't know, just something about Washington feels like that classic, wow, I can't believe they were that good in the regular season. Then you see them like lose in the first round. You're like, I knew it was fraudulent. I just knew it.
Yeah, I think for me, I don't trust Logan Thompson. I don't trust a guy who has not had success in the playoffs versus guys who have had success in the playoffs.
I don't like that one-trick pony, Ovi.
Yeah, he only does is take one-time shots.
Exactly.
What's he ever done with his career, am I right?
Yeah, you can defend that in the playoffs.
To be fair, Logan Thompson has had some moments in the postseason with Vegas, but
yeah, in a tandem where he played a few games.
Yeah. How come nobody picked Rod the Bod's team, you know?
Because they made the dumbest trade in franchise history.
I think the Capitals are really good. It's just one of those things where, like, I trust the other style. I also trust Tampa. Yeah. I trust Florida. I trust them to go out there and do what they need to do in the postseason.
I think
I don't trust
those two teams play Western Conference hockey. Correct. The other teams don't. And unless you play Western Conference hockey, you're not going to win the Stanley Cup.
He's Alex. This is T-Bone on BK. In 15 minutes, we're going to talk about the Cardinals' offense. Can they keep it up for a month without Ivan Herrera? It seems like a tall task. What do they need to do in order to do so? Plus, what is Thomas Ajayce's role on this team? Can he stick around a little longer than just this 10-day stretch when Nolan Gorman is on the IL? We'll talk about that. Coming up next, though, the junk drawer here on BK and Ferrario.
Alex Ferrario with you to talk about my friends out at Rhino Shield who can update the exterior of your home or your business. And I'm speaking to business owners right now. If your business starts to look worn down, if you start to get those water spots on the side of it, or maybe the UV spots where the paint is starting to chip, you need an upgrade. You don't want it to look old and worn down. You want it to look brand new. And Rhino Shield can help you with that. Tons of different businesses around the area have used Darren and his team's work. Like Cottleville Smiles got this work done. There's a plaza right next to me, High Ridge, that got this done. There's a couple of others right in Chesterfield area that have used this. And what they do is they use a ceramic coating that sticks 8 to 10 times thicker than the paint that you would be trying to use. This isn't paint that what Darren and his team are using, and it's all backed by a 25-year transferable warranty. So whatever you got, aluminum, asbestos, block, brick, cedar, stucco, it all will be taken care of thanks to Rhino Shield. So give them a call today. It's 100% waterproof. It's backed by 25-year transferable warranty. 90% deflects the UV rays. Darren and his team at Rhino Shield will take care of you. 877-25-RHINO, 877-25RHINO.com.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, it's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Alex, I'm going to give you a dealer's choice. You get to choose between these two stories for the junk drawer today, okay?
This is like deal or no deal.
These are two headlines. Headline number 1, teens are delaying getting their driver's license. Parents are curious as to why. Option number 2, Nevada man arrested after 7 emotional support tigers are seized from his home.
Ooh, God. I'm going to go with the first one. Let's talk about why teens are delaying getting their driver's license.
All right. If you're curious, the man was 71 years old. He didn't have the proper permits, as you could probably anticipate, to own the animals, and he violated other rules over the years, the sheriff's office said. That happened in Nevada.
It's like the people that have chimpanzees in their home, and they're like, well, I don't know what happened. It just got filled with rage, and it attacked me. Yeah, I wonder why.
Nearly 40% of teens are delaying getting their license by 1 or 2 years, and 30% are now delaying it by more than 2 years, according to a study that's been released over the last 5 years. This continues a trend from the last 20 years. Between 2006 and 2015, according to another study, the number of high school seniors with a driver's license dropped from 81% down to 70%.
Jeez.
So why is this happening? There are a number of different things. One, socializing online has led to kids not needing to go places as often as they used to, right? Instead of meeting at a park or whatever, going to the mall, going to...
What kind of sketchy stuff were you doing with
like,
friends?
on a picnic?
Going to the park? I mean, going and playing basketball? Used to do that all the time.
Oh.
Up at the local park.
I would just do it in my neighborhood.
Sure. Whatever. Like,
For some reason you said park, I picture you and the boys. What are you doing today, Brandon? Oh, me and the boys. We're going on a picnic.
We're going swinging.
All right. I mean, we used, whether it was kickball, baseball, basketball, whatever, we used to go up to the park. Anyway.
Monkey boys!
People are now kids are now socializing online more often, which means that instead of going to hang out with friends, you're just at home. So why the hell do I need a car to go anywhere? I'm not going anywhere.
You're cotting it up with your headphones.
Mental health, people not wanting to face the anxiety of driving any longer. The potential of independence, like kids now are around home more often. They stay home literally after college at times as well. So there's a lot of different things that they theorize as to why kids are not getting their driver's license as often anymore. But it's like a pretty sizable drop. 30 to 40% of kids now waiting at least 2 years.
I understand those reasonings, but like, man, I'm putting myself in that position. And I mean, at the time, we had instant messenger, we had like AOL, like we didn't have the ability to always be, but we still could text. And I don't remember wanting to wait. Like, I wanted to get my permit immediately, and then I wanted to get my license 100%. Immediately. And for me, it was because I wanted the freedom to go and see friends. Like, I wasn't going long distances, but like when I wanted to go to a movie at night with my buddies, I didn't want my mom to drop me off anymore. School was the biggest thing, because like by the time I was a junior, or no, it was a sophomore, I could drive to school. So I got my license when I was a freshman, but my next year, I could drive to school. I hated riding the bus, and my parents wouldn't drive me. I despised the bus. So like the moment I turned 16, I was like, can I go take this test? Can we do this now, please? And there was no delaying for it. And I wonder, too, if it's because of the insurance. I wonder if parents make their kids get insurance right away.
Well, I mean, you have to have insurance if you're going to drive.
Well, but what I mean is, like, I wonder if parents are more apt to say, like, if you get your car, you have to pay for your own insurance.
Which, good luck. Like, how are they going to pay for it?
Yeah, well,
I had to pay for my own insurance.
Mine did that to me, too. The moment I could drive, they were like, hey, you got a job, you got a car, you got to get licensed.
And now it's super expensive. It's crazy expensive to be able to do that.
Yeah, I shouldn't say I'm surprised, because like my cousins, for example, I think if their parents didn't make them get their license, I don't think they would have gotten their license, because they just don't like driving, point blank and period. I'm with Alex, so I really looked forward to doing it.
Same.
Because it meant that I could drive around. Especially the big thing for us was, once you were a sophomore in my high school, you could leave school for lunch. So the 40-minute lunch, we had the open lunch. So I could drive home, and then it really worked out for my parents, because then I could go home, I could let the dog out, and I could stay at home for 30 minutes. I don't think most
places are doing that anymore.
Yeah, probably not. But yeah, mine was when I had to go to the bathroom, I could drive home and go to the bathroom and not have to worry about going to school.
For me, it was just like, hey, man, I stayed after school basically every day because I was playing sports throughout the course of the year. Yeah. This way I can drive to school, and then I can get home whenever. I don't need to bug a buddy to be able to get home. Like, always having to... you guys know this about me. I do not like asking people for help with stuff. I just don't like doing it. So if I can avoid asking somebody every day to drive me home, I'm going to do that, whatever that ends up being. So, yeah, I was always immediately the guy that I got my permit the day that I turned 15. Yep. I got my license the day that I turned 16, and I was driving to school the next day.
Mine was girlfriends, too. Like, I was dating my wife now. At the time, my girlfriend, like, the first date we went on, my dad drove us to a hockey game, and it's like, come on, man. So, like, that moment, I was like, we're not doing this ever again. But my wife had her license before me, so she would drive me around on dates. It was awkward as hell.
Speaking of, like, after school, like, when it was in the winter, especially when I got to high school, I didn't have an athletic sport going on. So when I was a freshman, what would happen was I would have to go, because my mom was a teacher, so I would ride the bus to the elementary school, and then I would have to stay at the elementary school until my mom done with work. Let me tell you, there's nothing worse than staying at a school for 2.5 hours of just you by yourself, like kicking cans, essentially, just waiting for mom to finish up her work. Oh, I hated that so much.
Interesting, man.
People on the YouTube chat are wondering why I was 16 as a freshman. So I might have done the math. So I graduated 2009. So that means I would have started 2005. So I was a sophomore. I was a freshman turning sophomore And that was when I turned 16. So I got my permit when I was a freshman, and I got my driver's license the summer going into my sophomore year.
Yeah, that's when most kids get it.
But I was that weird August date that was like I could have gone to the next level, or I could have just stayed in the one I was in. And I was held back a year apparently.
So some parents just don't want their kids to be the youngest one in school. It's tough.
Well,
in
it
high
paid
school.
off because I dominated athletics, and now look at me now. I'm a superstar athlete.
With Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. A little bit of news pass along. This comes from Hector Gomez on Twitter. I know the morning show talked about this earlier today. A former Cardinals reliever, Octavio Dotel, has passed away. He was found earlier today in the rubble at a nightclub after the roof had caved in. He has now been pronounced dead while being transferred over to the hospital. Octavio Dotel was at the nightclub last night when the roof collapsed. He was found in the rubble. He was found alive at the scene, but on the transfer over to the hospital, he has passed away. So some news today here in St. Louis. Octavio Dotel pronounced dead, unfortunately, in the Dominican Republic. Rest in peace to him. Just a brutal accident.
6 hours in that rubble. My God.
Yeah, it took place last night in the Dominican Republic. Coming up next, can the offense keep it up without Ivan Herrera? We'll talk about it here on BK and Ferrario. All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. In the next segment, we are going to give you an opportunity to go up against Ryan Suter and Philip Broberg, two of the Blues defensemen, in a game we like to call Can You Beat the Blues? We'll be playing that coming up at the next segment. We do need a couple of contestants. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. If you'd like to go up against Broberg or Ryan Suter, go ahead and text in right now. I can beat the Blues. We'll pick a couple of you guys to go up against them in our next segment. But on the Cardinals, Alex, the offense has been great so far this year. As a team, they're hitting right around 300. They've got an OPS of about 850, but a lot of that is coming from Ivan Herrera. Ivan Herrera in 21 at-bats so far this year had 2 doubles, 4 homers. He was slugging over 1,000, which means pretty good OPS over there for Ivan Herrera. He's going to be out for at least a month. Ollie Marmol earlier today was on another station, and he was talking about the injury. He said, hey, the knee kind of tugged at him whenever he got over to third base. He tried playing through it, and then as he took another step after the next pitch, it like crumbled on him. And he has a bone bruise, is what the Cardinals have announced. He's got a bone bruise. He's going to be out for at least a month. So it's going to be a while here where you've got Pedro Paez and then a guy that came in yesterday, and surprisingly enough, in his first appearance for the St. Louis Cardinals, Pozo hit a home run in his debut for the Cardinals. So maybe that's not all bad. But how do you feel about this offense? Are they going to be able to sustain this for a month without Ivan Herrera in the middle of the order?
Sustain this? No. I mean, this is like absurd numbers. I think they're going to be a good offense. They've got a really tough matchup in terms of the pitching that they're going to go up with the next couple of weeks, but I don't think this is a one guy carries all. I think this is just the sum of the parts with all of these hitters, and I think Lars Nootbaar has been a massive upgrade. Brendan Donovan with runners in scoring position. You're seeing Jordan Walker hit. Alec Burleson's been doing well. I think this team will be able to keep their head above water without Ivan Herrera. My biggest concern with this offense is how much does this pitching staff deplete them? Because if we're talking the next 2 to 3 weeks of them giving up 5 runs in the first 2 innings or 7 runs through 4, at some point, every time the offense takes a lead, if you give it up the next half inning, man, fatigue's going to set in, especially when you're talking about 13 games in 13 days. It's going to be a lot of games that because of this pitching staff, the offense always has to stay ready. I think they're going to be good. Are they going to be top 3 in baseball? Absolutely not.
I also have a fear of what is going to happen just naturally because of the arms that they're about to go up against. Skeens, Keller, Nola, Sanchez, Wheeler, Valdez, Brown.
Yeah, that's depleting.
Those are your next 7 starters that you're going up against. Hunter Brown has been really good, by the way. So far this year for Houston, he's added some velo. He looks just like a different version of himself. Valdez has been really good for them as well. And you guys don't need me to tell you about Skeens or Nola or Wheeler. Like they're all great. So naturally, there was going to be some slippage in the offense, even if Ivan Herrera was still a part of the offense. Now, without him in there, when he was your best hitter, I don't think it's going to look ugly, but I do think it's going to look a little different. Can you expect 4+ runs every single time the rest of the way? No, you can't expect that. You hope for it, but you can't expect it going up against these kinds of arms. So I think you're going to see a little bit of a coming back to the pack, and what sucks is you wasted it. Yeah. You wasted such a hot start by your offense because of the pitching. And so you would expect, I do think the pitching will get better. I don't think it'll be this bad all year long. So as the pitching gets a little bit better, the problem is the pitching's going to get a little bit better. The offense is probably going to get a little bit worse. And it becomes about, okay, where do they even out? Maybe the offense ends up 10th in Major League Baseball. The pitching ends up 20th. And you could get to like 85 wins, but you probably should have had 3 or 4 more wins early on this season, probably 3 more wins early this season. And if you did, okay, you feel a little better. You're 7-3 instead of 4-6. The vibes are pretty high right now. You're first in your division, and you're thinking to yourself, all right, we've got some issues with this pitching staff, but the offense has kept us afloat, and even if that comes back down to earth, we're still a few games over 500, so we've got wiggle room to work with now. Instead, now you're 4-6. You have no wiggle room. You got to get going now. You put yourself into a bad spot, and if things don't go well for you against Skeens or Keller, now what's waiting for you is Philly and Houston. Good luck.
Yeah, I don't think the pitching's, I mean, it's not going to be the worst in Major League Baseball. I think it might be bottom 5 for how inconsistent it has been, and I do think the offense takes a little step back, and that's where it turns into disaster.
Somebody on the text line said, do you guys think that Herrera was going to lead the team in hitting if he didn't get hurt? I do.
Yeah.
I think Ivan Herrera is the best hitter currently on your roster.
I think it was going to be Herrera, Nootbaar, and probably, depending on how Nolan Arenado was going to continue, I think he was going to be up there in your top 3.
I think Contreras will eventually get there. Yeah. I think, I know people are freaking out about him right now, and I get it. He's looked terrible to start out the
year. Right now, it's a mind game.
Worse. But he has enough of a history. I think we kind of know what it's going to be at the end of the year. He's going to hit 260. He's going to get 25 home runs by the end of the year. He'll be fine. But it's just been a really bad 2-week start to begin this season. It'll eventually get better. Did want to ask you about somebody that looked really good over the last few days, which is Thomas Ajayci. Since coming up to the big league club, 2 for 4 last night, hit the home run, a monster shot over the monster in Wrigley on Sunday night. Is there a role for Thomas Ajayci beyond just this trial run right now while Nolan Gorman is on the injured list? Can he stick around? Because they do need a right-handed bat. This is something that they were lacking. Is there a role for him beyond just this 10-day stretch?
I don't think so, just based on how the Cardinals operate, because I don't think they're just going to give up on Gorman. So there's that roster spot when he comes back. And it sounds like the hope is he's back for the Philadelphia series over the weekend. So if he's here, I don't know how you fit him on the roster. I would make an argument that they could explore potentially, like, if you wanted to option Siani down, but then you don't have a backup center fielder, and then you're stuck with Walker defensively. So I don't think there's a spot for him. And to me, he fits what the Cardinals are looking for more.
What you could do there, in those situations, Donnie goes out to the outfield, so JC plays at second base.
Sure, but then who are you starting in center? Nootbaar? If you don't have Siani?
Victor Scott.
I'm saying, like, on a day where you don't have Scott, that's where they will.
Scott's playing every day.
See, then that's where they won't go. Like, I'm with you. They won't go there. And the other problem then is they will tell you then we don't have our hands team anymore. Like,
but Donnie's good. Donnie's good in the outfield. Donnie's an upgrade over Jordan Walker in the outfield, and Thomas Ajayci's fine at second base.
I don't think they will view it as we are. I would even argue. I would agree with them that their better defensive alignment is with Siani moving to center and Scott pushing to right.
Did I say Monster and Wrigley?
You did.
Fenway. Sorry, I apologize.
We weren't going to correct you, buddy. We're just going to let you roll.
My bad. I think there's a rule for it. Really comes down to what's more valuable: Ajayci's bat or Siani's defense and base running.
And they would tell you his defense and base running.
Well, which is absurd because his defense and base running hasn't impacted these last few games. Thomas Ajayci has impacted these last few games.
Also, you're not a team that's built on pitching and defense.
Yeah.
No.
This is a team that's built on offense.
Your center fielder can't catch the ball when it goes out of the ballpark.
And I know you've got a lot of pitchers that rely on contact, and so maybe there's an argument that, hey, that defense in center field is more valuable here because of the pitching staff that you have. I could listen to it, honestly. But this offense is going to have to produce, which means you're going to have to pull every lever possible to get the most runs possible out of your lineup. I think Ajayci helps you in that regard. Baker still probably is the first guy off of the bench because he's got that pop. He's been really good so far this year against lefties.
Ajayci's got pop too, though, man. He's got some power behind his bat.
He's a real threat, and you've got a lot of left-handed hitters in this lineup right now, and without Ivan Herrera, you might want to pinch hit as well for one of the catchers and then bring the other one in at the end of that game. I could see going to a guy like Thomas Ajayci in those late game situations, and strangely, because Herrera is the one that's off the team right now on the IL, I think Ajayci almost kind of replaces that right-handed bat that you were otherwise lacking.
Yeah, I mean, I'm open-minded to it because I think there's definitely a spot for him, and I think it works better, and I think Ajayci fits this team better, honestly, because he brings versatility around the infield, and I think that's one of the bigger issues they're running into right now is, okay, what happens if we do burn Baker early on against a lefty? We don't have another right-handed bat. Or they look at it and say, boy, we've already burnt, like, Burleson, for example, when they had Gorman. We've already burnt Gorman. Well, now when they go to a lefty, we can't hit for Nolan Gorman at second base because we don't have a guy that can go play second base if we go with Baker. So I think he fits what they need, which is a right-handed bench bat that can bring a little bit of power potentially, but also has versatility, and they just don't have that right now. I'm open-minded to it because I agree. If they're going to be if their identity is going to be offense first, there's just no role for Michael Siani.
And I know they don't want to do it, but like if you're down by 2 or 3 runs and you get into a situation where, hey, we got to pinch hit everybody. We got to play the matchups right now. Donnie can go out to the outfield. Burleson can go out to the outfield in a worst case scenario for you. I mean, if you really, really needed it, Contreras could technically go out to the outfield for you. Again, I don't think he would ever get into that spot, but
now we're changing the positions again for him.
The reason why I bring that up is because their retort would probably be, hey, we need Siani because we need that backup outfielder. Dude, you've got guys that can play in the outfield. Yeah. I think Ajayci could probably play in the outfield if you really needed him to.
Did they use him last year in the outfield a couple of times?
I can't remember if they did or not.
I thought they did, or maybe it was. I could have sworn he's taken some reps in outfield, or at least they've talked about it.
He's a guy that could do it if you really needed him to. He could play anywhere for you, man. So, I think they should at least consider it. Let's see what it looks like over the next, 5 days now that he has left on this IL stint. We'll see what that looks like. But if he keeps hitting like this, you're going to be hard-pressed to send him back down. He's been good ever since he came up to the big league.
This team should not pass up opportunities to send impact players back down to Memphis. If you've got guys who are helping your team, keep them at the major league level.
Coming up next, we'll play a game of Can You Beat the Blues. Philip Broberg, Ryan Suter, those are our two contestants. We've got them. We've got a prize of Blues tickets and a signed puck by Philip Broberg. That's next here on 101 ESPN. Oh, it is our weekly game. We like to call it Can You Beat the Blues? We've got Matt, we've got Ben, we've got Scotty on the line. They're going up against Philip Broberg and Ryan Suter. The winner will go home with a pair of tickets to see the Blues in their final home game of the regular season. That's next Tuesday against the Utah Hockey Club. And a signed puck by Philip Broberg. With Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. We do this game each week throughout the finish of the regular season for the St. Louis Blues. Alex, it's a very simple game, really, if you think about it.
I've heard so.
It's basically categories. I'll give you a category. You name as many things within that category as you can in 15 seconds. So if I asked Alex to name as many anime characters as he could in 15 seconds. Alex, on your mark, get set, go.
Ash, Brock, Misty, Pikachu, Charizard, Blastoise,
I don't know if
Bulbasaur.
those count, but yeah, sure, he got 7.
They're anime characters.
Alex is going...
Pokemon.
Well, I knew the Pikachu one. Was that all Pokemon?
All Pokemon.
Alex is going to go up against Broberg.
Don't
If
know
Broberg
anime.
got 10, it'd be a -3 for Alex. And if somehow -3 was the best margin, he would go home with the signed puck by Philip Broberg and the tickets next Tuesday's game between the Blues.
Anime questions
and
at
the
me.
Utah
So,
Hockey
who do you
Club.
think would be the biggest anime fan on the Blues?
On the Blues?
Yeah.
Dude, I don't know.
I'm going to go out on a limb here. I definitely don't know if this is true, but my guess would be Kairu.
Oh, see, I don't think Kyrie would be.
I don't know.
Kyrie's too much of a bro, you know? He's a COD guy.
For some reason, Neighbors, but that feels wrong.
No.
I don't... Dude,
Neighbors too old school.
I've never liked anime, so, like, I don't know
I don't
what
know who the
profile
answer is.
likes anime.
All right.
Aren't they big in, like...
I've got an assignment for Grant Francis at the next morning
There you
skate
go.
that he's at.
Who's the guy that would be
Who's
most
the
likely
guy
to watch
that's
anime?
watching
Could you
anime?
imagine Grant walking up to all of us like, do you watch anime? Do you watch anime? Do you watch...
Well, I would-
Torapchenko would be the one that I'd throw out there.
All right, so that's our
Picturing
game.
Walker for some reason.
No way.
That is our game. We will have Matt, Ben, and Scotty on the line
All three
today.
have to answer anime questions.
All right, Matt is our first one up. Matt, we've got 2 contestants today, Philip Broberg or Ryan Suter. We appreciate you being a part of the show, my friend. How you doing today?
Hey, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're thrilled to have you. Do you understand the rules of the game? Last week we had some questions on that.
Yep. So just name as many items as I can in the 15 seconds.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's rocket science here.
You understand. All right.
You get style points, though. Gary's got the most style points this season.
Matt, you're first up today, so you get to choose. Would you like to go up against Philip Broberg or Ryan Suter today?
I'll take Broberg.
All right, for Philip Broberg, you get the following. Name as many things as you can that you would see on a golf course. As many things as you can that you would see if you went to a golf course. On your mark, get set, go.
Okay, we got a tee. We got a golf cart. We got a flagpole for the holder of the hole. Golf clubs. We got a beer cart. We got a...
All right, Matt.
Matt, great job, but you wasted too much time with We've Got.
Okay, sorry.
No, don't apologize, Matt. Don't apologize. Broberg might do the same thing.
So I've got a clarification here that I would like to ask for all of you and for Matt, honestly. I had him at 6, but I counted him saying the holder of the whole flag.
Yeah, I would give that time.
Okay.
You see
Just
that
making
at a
sure.
golf course.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. What I would have done was 5 iron, 6 iron, 7 iron, 8 iron, 9 iron, driver, putter.
Matt, are you a golfer?
A little bit.
Yeah. You golf to drink, right? That's the way I golf.
Yep. It's a social thing.
Yeah.
All right. Let's hear.
You're not good at it. Me
if
neither.
Philip Broberg knows his golfing.
Golf bag, golf clubs, golf ball, golf cart, the course, clubhouse, hot dogs,
Way to T-Bone's heart.
tees, greens, bunkers.
Broberg knows his golf. I had 10.
All right, so that's a -4 for Matt. Matt, you did your best, my friend. Unfortunately, you had too many of the we've got a...
Yeah.
But you got a -4. That's technically... the leader in
BK
the
used
clubhouse.
tone there. So, Matt, apologize for the tone, but we appreciate you listening and being a part of it.
All right, next one up is Ben. And Ben, we've got a bone to pick with you, my friend.
Yeah, Ben.
All right, let's get it on. Let's do it.
Ben, we like Dylan Holloway, man. We do. We really, really like Dylan Holloway. And for those that aren't familiar, Ben is a texter. He likes texting in, and he's been saying over the last few weeks, when are you guys going to admit that you were wrong about Dylan Holloway? I'll do it to you right now, Ben. I was wrong about Dylan Holloway. I thought he would be like a 20-goal scorer this year. He's a 30-goal scorer and one of the best players on the team. So
I won't tell you I'm wrong, Ben, because I nicknamed the man Big D. I've always known that Dylan Holloway is good.
Well, you and me both, man, because I saw that athleticism, I saw that agility, and I was like, this guy is something special.
Yeah, well, you know what, Ben? We're hockey guys, and Brandon's not.
That is correct. I'm more than happy to admit as much.
T-Bone's right, too.
All right, Ben, do you understand the rules of the game, my man?
I do.
All right, Ben.
Ben, you're going up against Ryan Suter today, and your category is things that you would grill. Name as many things as you can that you would put onto the grill to cook. On your mark, get set, go.
Hot dogs, chicken, bratwurst, vegetables, zucchini, hamburger, steak, ribeye. Oh, man.
Okay, so I feel like... Jeez, Ben, you're so down on yourself. So I've got some technicalities. Can he say vegetables and zucchini and steak and ribeye?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's an umbrella, and then you got inside. If he, like, did steak, ribeye, filet, it did like 6 different steaks, I feel like then you probably would get rid of the steak. But he did literally one within the category.
Honestly, I kind of feel bad for Ben because the moment he's like, I lost. Ben, don't get down on yourself, buddy. You never know. Ryan Suter is up there.
I had him with 8.
Yeah, I had 8.
Yeah.
All right. Let's hear from Ryan Suter. Ryan Suter is an older gentleman. He's probably done a decent amount of grilling in his day. Let's find out if he knows things that he would put on a grill.
Hamburger, chicken, steak, brat, hot dog, zucchini, kebabs, fish, salmon.
So
I
he
had
did the
9.
same thing. I got him with 9 as well.
Zucchini's probably the one that you go to.
I didn't even think about this.
Somebody just ticked it and said it's a fruit.
It is. It's got seeds.
It's in the vegetable section at the grocery store.
It's a fruit.
If you're putting it on the grill at your party, I'm not
Cucumber,
coming.
also a fruit.
You put that on the grill,
Tomato,
I'm not
also
coming.
a fruit.
No, tomato is not a fruit.
I believe bell peppers are technically a fruit as well.
No.
I think so, yeah.
It's in the vegetable section at the grocery store. So
It's
you're
in
telling me that
produce.
Aldi, Schnucks, Dierbergs all got it wrong.
No, I'm telling you that you're not reading the signs correctly because that's just produce, which
It's
could
next
be
to
fruit.
the carrots. Are carrots vegetables?
I mean, yeah.
It's next to the asparagus. Are asparagus vegetables?
No, but the thing
It's
that's...
in the vegetable section. The apples are over here with the watermelon and the oranges.
And the sweet potatoes, which are?
Those are potatoes. That's a starch. Look at the food pyramid. Nailed
Yeah, I'd
it.
agree with that one. I'm not going to high five.
All right, next one up is Scotty.
gonna nail
Scotty,
it.
you're joining the show today for Can You Beat the Blues. How you doing, man?
Good afternoon, boys. Thanks for having me, and love the show.
Oh, such
I appreciate
pleasantries,
that.
Scotty.
All right, Scotty, you know what? I'm not supposed to play favorites here, but I'm rooting for you.
I was going to sing the Scotty Doesn't Know song from Eurotrip to find out if you really know.
No, he's probably heard that 100 times.
Scotty doesn't know.
I'd after I'm done answering, but hopefully we'll be good. Better than the last 2 points.
Whoa, no reason to take shots at the competition here, Scotty.
Scotty, you're going to be going up against Ryan Suter. You understand the rules of the game?
Yes, sir.
All right, your category today is farm animals. Name as many different farm animals as you can in 15 seconds. On your mark, get set, go.
Pigs, cows, hogs, chickens, turkeys, horses, rabbits, hens.
I had him at 8.
I had him at 8 as well. That's
We
pretty
will
good
accept
work.
hens and chickens. Those are 2 different breeds.
Absolutely. All right, next thing up.
Unlike this guy who thinks tomatoes are
We've
fruits,
got
am I
Ryan
right?
Suter. Still a fruit, man.
No, it's not.
He also had farm animals. Let's see if he knows his
He's got a farm.
Cow, pig, goat,
You sure?
horse.
Yeah, has a farm. Ryan.
About animals.
Ryan.
Sheep. Did I say that one yet?
No, you didn't. You didn't say anything for about 8 seconds. I had him at 5.
I've got him at 5 as well. Scotty's a +3, which means congratulations, Scotty! You're going to see the Blues versus the Utah Hockey Club next Tuesday for the final regular season game. You will also be getting a signed puck by Philip Broberg. Congratulations, Scotty.
I love America, guys. That's fantastic. And let's go Blues.
Absolutely. Let's go Blues. Scotty does, in fact,
Love
know
America.
Alex.
He knows. Did you like that movie? Watching it? Growing? Did you watch it ever?
Yeah, sure.
I watched it. Big fan of it. I have Scotty doesn't know on my iPod. Every once in a while, you just listen to it.
iPod.
Oh, okay,
wow,
Apple
that's a
phone.
blast from the past.
Well, I do have an iPod still, but
I washed
Yep.
mine, so I don't have one anymore.
it doesn't. It's not supposed to go in the washing machine.
Yeah, I
man.
learned. Yeah, couldn't even
It's not
dry it out
supposed to
with
go there.
rice.
Yeah,
Did you ever have the shuffle? The
Oh
little
no,
mini
I wasn't.
one?
I wasn't
Yeah,
a
no,
dork.
I didn't
I
have
wasn't
Were
a
you
dork.
alive when the iPod
Yeah,
shuffle
because
was a thing?
I used to have. I remember asking for Christmas. I remember what they were called, but it was like the alarm clock where you plug in the iPod to it, and you could like listen to music while you go to bed and stuff. Oh, I had that, and then I watched the iPod.
I still have the big one with the big screen that you did videos on. The iPod. I still have that.
Remember an iPad?
No, not an iPad. It was an iPod, but it was like the
classic.
video version of it. Yeah.
There was the classic. There was the Nano. There was the
Nano.
shuffle.
Oh god, the Nano. Do you remember the original one?
That was a
one
classic. Those things were big,
sucked.
man.
That thing was bulky too.
Yeah, they were.
It's like a
they
brick.
looked like an iPhone. It was
Yeah.
honestly like the original version of the iPhone.
Yeah.
Except the screen was like a third.
Scotty doesn't.
All right, so congratulations to Scotty for winning this week. We'll play again next week. I believe that's the final week of Can You Beat the Blues? We'll be playing next Monday, so be sure to stay tuned for that. Coming up next, we'll finish this thing out with NFL Quick Hitters here on BK and Ferrario.
Tanner Hendrickson here with a Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Blues winning streak was snapped last night by the Winnipeg Jets. They'll look to start a new one tomorrow night as they visit the Edmonton Oilers. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 8 o'clock with Alex Ferrario, then puck drop at 9 o'clock with the voice of the Blues, Chris Kerber. And the Cardinals back in action tonight. Game 2 of their 3-game set with the Pittsburgh Pirates. They dropped the first one last night 8-4. Tonight, the pitching matchup, Sonny Gray versus Paul Skeens, 5:40 for first pitch. The Sports Update is brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
Hey, with Alex and T-Bone on BK, it's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Alex, I want to get to some NFL quick hitters, and we'll do this, no pun intended, relatively quickly because we got to get to the rewind on the other side. We took a little longer today with Can You Beat the Blues?
Well, we had great guests.
There was a report that came out that apparently the NFL, there was a proposal this year from the Detroit Lions that proposed, hey, can we get rid of the divisional winner always hosts in the divisional round? Can we please do that? Because
a bunch of whiners in the NFL after every year. Can we fix this, please?
Well, the whole 7-10 divisional winner hosting a 13-4 5 seed, it's pretty silly if you think about it.
So they want to go 1 through 8 like the NHL.
Correct. Yeah,
I'm fine with that.
There are wild card teams, but whoever had the best record, that is the team that hosts, right? So you reseed 1 through 7 accordingly. The Lions proposed that, and it's a competition committee thing. It didn't get enough support among the league, so they decided to table it. Well, there's a report from Pro Football Talk that apparently the commissioner is the one that wants this, and that's why it was tabled and not outright said this is not going to happen. Do you guys think that is something that should be implemented for the NFL? Do you agree with that proposal?
I think so. I mean, I think if you're a team that gets to 12, 13, 14 wins, you should be rewarded to play on the home field to start the season. You shouldn't have to go on the road after outpacing the other team that's hosting by 6 or 7 wins. So, yeah, I can get on board with this one. I was a little Tony and aggressive there on the NFL owners being whiners. They still are. But, yeah, I can totally understand this because winning the division, especially with some of these crappy divisions right now, it's a piece of cake for some of these teams, and they shouldn't get to host a team that won 13 or 14 games.
I'm the opposite side of this. I actually don't think they should go to this.
I agree.
Unless a team is under 500. If you win your division with an under 500 record, so you have 8 or fewer wins out of the 17 that you played that year, you don't get to host. You end up going on the road in that first matchup. So it would really just be that 4-5 matchup that ends up getting changed. But otherwise, if you go above 500 and you win your division, I think you should be able to host in that first round. I think that is the reason why teams go for their division.
But what about the teams that are stuck in a great division and get 12 wins but can't catch the team that's got 14?
Well,
and then you got to go on the road and play a 7-win team.
It's the same thing in every sport, man.
The
Central Division is better than the divisions over in the Eastern Conference.
Which is why I think it should be 1 through 8. I think we should be talking about the Wild and the Blues being in a better position in the playoffs than the Edmonton Oilers.
In Major League Baseball, there are divisions that are just flat out better than others. Like the Central divisions are terrible. Both leagues. The AL East, really good, man. The Yankees, Blue Jays, Red Sox, and Orioles are all playoff hopefuls. The NL West, God bless you, man. Somebody's got to lose in that division. Padres, Giants, Dodgers, Diamondbacks, all playoff hopefuls this year. NL East, Phillies, Mets, Braves, all playoff hopefuls this year. Hey, I just listed 7 teams in the National League. At least 1 or 2 of them is not going to end up making the playoffs this year. So every sport has this. It is not created equally. It's geographic most of the time, which means, hey, middle of the country, less money in baseball. You're going to have an easier division to play in. Them's the breaks. Yeah. Be better.
I agree with you. The only one I would push back against is if you're below 500, you don't get the home game. Just because I think winning your division should matter. And even if that means it's below 500, you know what, tough break. If you are as good as you say you are and you went 12-5 that year, you know what you should do? You should beat the team that is below 500 that's hosting the game. That's the thing I don't understand. I'm tired of hearing these teams saying, we had to go on the road. You're the better football team. Win the freaking football game. That's my whole issue with it. I like the playoff system the way it is. I wouldn't change it. I think if you win your division, you get a home football game.
All right, last thing that I wanted to get to here was something from The Athletic. They put out their latest NFL mock draft earlier today, and Alex, it's pretty interesting to me in this right. Ashton Jeanty, a running back. Tyler Warren, a tight end out of Penn State. And Shamar Stewart, a defensive end out of Texas A&M who had a career 4.5 sacks. Played 3 years, had 4.5 career sacks for himself at Texas A&M. Were all top 10 picks in this mock draft. Again, a running back, a tight end, and a defensive end with 4.5 career sacks to his name. They were all listed as top 10 picks in this mock draft. What do you make of that? What does that say about this year's draft?
Well, that it's weak, first of all. But, I mean, the tight end makes sense. It feels like there's teams that see what Bowers did last year, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, let's go see if we can get that guy. And I don't think it's the same player.
He's an outlier, though.
Yeah, the running back with Ashton Jeanty, I mean, for the season he had, I could totally see a team getting excited about that. The 4.5 sack guy for 3 years in college football, that's the one that I'm a little like you were saying, he's a freak athlete, which is great. But if you're a freak athlete and you got 4.5 sacks in 3 years, why didn't you have more? So some of those I can explain. The defensive end is the one that I don't know if I can explain.
Yeah, I wonder if we're seeing – I can't explain the defensive end one. That's the one that I don't really have a kind of counter to. But for Jeanty and the tight end award, I wonder if it's a overcorrection from teams. And what I mean by that, I mean, you mentioned Bowers. That's the one that I immediately thought of is everybody looks at Bowers and goes, whoa, okay. If we think Warren is Bowers, then boom, we got to take that guy in the top 10. Oh, Jeanty, we just saw what Philadelphia did with a great running back in Saquon Barkley that just got picked second overall. Yeah, we want to build like that. We can get a good running back that can establish a running game for us, and we can win with a 10, I would say 8 to 12-ish quarterback like the Eagles did, Jalen Hurts. I think that's what's going on with those two. I can't explain the defensive end one. I think that is just, hey, that's pure athleticism. We can work with that. We can make him become a sack machine. But those other two, because typically tight end and running back is ones that you shouldn't take that high. I think that's an overcorrection from NFL teams.
Yeah, and especially when you look at the team that took Ashton Jeanty in the mock draft being the Vegas Raiders. Like the two teams in the top 10 that I could see taking Ashton Jeanty would be the Raiders or the Chicago Bears because they're desperate for that position.
And I'm fine with it, honestly. If you've got a stud running back at this point, I do think it's worth the value. If you have a lot of other stuff going right for you offensively, the tight end one is the one that I love. Tyler Warren. I think he's an awesome player, and I think he's going to be a really good player. But I've thought other tight ends are going to be really good players that came in and were first-round picks.
Pitts? Were you big on Pitts?
Can I give you the list of first-round tight ends since 2010? You guys tell me just real quick, hit or miss, okay?
Okay.
Brock Bowers.
Hit.
Dalton Kincaid.
Oh, miss.
Kyle Pitts.
Miss.
TJ Hawkinson.
Hit with injuries, but I'd still say hit.
I think
I'd say
lean
hit, but relatively. Like, if you told me, hey, you have to take a top 10 pick on TJ Hawkinson, would you do it again? I would say no.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, when he's healthy, no, they miss.
Hayden Hurst.
Miss.
Huge miss.
OJ Howard.
Miss.
Evan Ingram.
Miss.
David Njoku.
Miss.
Eric Ebron.
I don't even know that
Tyler
name.
Eifert, Jermaine Gresham. That's the entire list since 2010. There's only one on that entire list that you would say with no doubt about it is a hit. And that is Brock Bowers from this past year. The reason I mention that is because, like, you want to say TJ Hawkinson is a hit? I could say that. Probably for like the 20 to 32 range, though. Yeah. There were probably other guys that you would have rather had in the top 10 that have more positional value than TJ Hawkinson. Hell, he was traded, I think, for a second-round pick like a year and a half ago. So I'm not taking Tyler Warren in the top 10, man. I'm just not doing it. Even if I do believe in the talent, that position, it's so hard to translate to the next level. And we see this time and time and time again. It's just always the best athletes that end up figuring it out. Not all of the best athletes will become good tight ends, but typically the best tight ends were really, really excellent athletes. I don't know if Tyler Warren is an excellent athlete. So he's one of them. I'm not sure about a dude that had 4.5 sacks at the collegiate level going in the top 10.
That seems like you're getting infatuated by his combine, and it's like, don't fall for that.
It tells me this draft stinks. This is just a bad draft. There's one quarterback that's worth a crap. There's a couple of tackles. They both have T-Rex arms.
Couple of wide receivers.
Yeah, and even in the wide receivers, like this Tet McMillan or whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like you got to squint to really see it.
6'5", 210, and he doesn't run well.
He's big. Use him as a tight end.
Go long.
It's basically, I really hope you had a top 3 pick, and you can get one of Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter. Those guys are studs.
That's 6'5".
Beyond that, though, good luck.
That's 6'5", 210 million. He'd be a perfect Colt.
This is a
Go downfield. Anthony will YOLO it.
If you have a top 10 pick, I'm trying to get out as quickly as humanly possible.
Yeah, load up.
The problem is, if you're somebody outside of the top 10, why the hell are you trading on?
We're good. We'll keep this as is.
That's Some NFL quick hitters for
It was really quick.
Coming up next, we'll hit the BK and Ferrario Rewind here on 101 ESPN. Hey, with Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. If you guys missed anything from today's show, be sure to check it out on the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, or the free 101 ESPN app. It is sponsored by
Shaver Door Company.
That 101 ESPN app is free to download. It is super easy to use, and it is sponsored by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. After the show, if you want to check us out on YouTube, you can, as always, at youtube.com/101ESPN STL. That is where more than 100 of you have been joining us throughout the day today. The Graveyard Chat is over there, and always pleasant to be able to talk with.
Pleasant.
You guys can check us out over there, and after the show, if you're a Blues fan, you just want to see all the Blues stuff, T-Bone will clip it out into individual segments. You can just go through and scroll. Okay, when did they talk about Dylan Holloway? When did they talk about the loss from last night? You could do that. Cardinals fans, same thing for you. All of that is available for you over there.
What about Battlehawks fans or SC fans?
We did have one question on City SC. I don't know if that would be labeled, but it's part of questions and answers. Battlehawks.
T-Bone put it in.
Saw earlier today, Keem Butler still hampered by his hamstring.
Oh, so there it is. T-Bone clipped that off and put that on the YouTube
there's
page.
Your Battlehawks information for today. All right, final thing for today, Alex. Blues lost last night. We'll talk about them more tomorrow. They're back in action against the Edmonton Oilers. The Cardinals lost last night. They're back in action tonight against Paul Skeens. How do you think this one's going to go?
Not good, Brandon. Not good at all. I think the offense it might look a little bit more down to earth in this one, which, I mean, you're going up against an unearthly human being on the other side. The bigger concern, though, is what's the pitching like? Because this is the guy that's supposed to, again, give you a lot of innings, get you the point where you don't have to utilize your bullpen. Can you do that against the lowly Pirates that seems to put a lot of runs up on you yesterday?
I don't want T-Bone to steal my thunder, so I'm going to get this out there. I think the Cardinals win tonight.
Damn it.
Yep.
Both of you, just stop
I got something I want to say here. I think the Cardinals are going to win.
All right, Skeens breaks the record for strikeouts in a game.
Stop it.
I think Skeens has a good game, but I think this ends up being one of those like 3-2 types of games, and the Cardinals find a way to win it.
Yeah. And
With our bullpen?
Yeah, well, because you know Gray's not going to go that deep for you. The one thing I will say real quick on the Blues, they skate in Edmonton in about 2 minutes. I'll be really curious to find out the line combinations,
Absolutely.
if Dvorsky is going to be there or not.
Yeah, I'm curious if he goes on that third line. To your point on the pitch, I think there's a chance that we could be a little bit surprised by how much the offense puts pressure on some of the best arms that they're about to start facing.
And last night, national title game, Florida ends up winning it 65-63, and it was, I would say, overall a well-played game, but the refs got in the way to start that second half and then down the stretch as well. But Florida, once again, with a big comeback that's been their theme throughout the postseason. The tournament didn't live up to expectations in the first couple of rounds. I would say Final Four on, it was spectacular. I mean, that Duke-Houston game was amazing, and then last night, the national title game was fantastic. Florida, basically from start to finish this year, it was them and Duke, in my opinion. You could throw Houston in there as well, Auburn at a time as well. Those were the four best teams all year long. And Florida just proved to be the best team overall this season. Awesome game last night.
Yeah, it really was. It was. I wrapped up postgame with about 3 minutes to go, and for the first time probably since the second round, I stopped what I was doing to watch the rest of the game. So entertaining, and I think that's what you get when you get two juggernauts that go head to head.
All right, we'll talk to you guys tomorrow at 11 a.m. The Fast Lane's coming up next here on 101 ESPN.